Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome
Happy
to
free
Face Mask
agency.
Fantasy.
Happy legal tampering, before the legal tampering, before the free agency, whatever is happening right now.
Yo, it's been a fun few days.
This is, I mean, we are officially past the doldrums of the NFL offseason, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, there was a lull period about 2 months after the Super Bowl, but now it's picked right back up again.
Not even. It was
right
like
after the
month.
Combine, everything just started popping off.
Yeah.
Even a little bit before the Combine. It was just, yeah. I like where we're at.
Things are always going on. But yeah, that's what we're here for, like you said. Welcome to Face Mask Fantasy. We got you covered.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about this off stream, but we will not be having a live stream on Thursday this week. We will be having it tomorrow because tomorrow is the first day of actual free agency. So it was Nick's idea. Props to Nick, but we want to leave it open for basketball so you guys can watch your basketball.
Yeah, so you can watch March Madness because that's the first day of the tournament. Obviously, very exciting time of the year.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and we'll reiterate this a couple of times as we get people trickling in, but I think it makes sense to have a Wednesday stream this week instead of a Thursday stream, just to stay in lockstep with the official start of free agency. And of course, things can still materialize with some big names still out there and expected to move in one way, shape, or form.
Yeah, we haven't heard any rumblings on like Allen Robinson.
Outside
That's a
of
big name.
Like Detroit is interested, but they haven't made that actually happen yet. But they did sign a couple of people.
Is Leonard Fournette actually going to be going back to the Bucs? That's now speculation, just because Tom Brady's back.
So Tom Brady's back. That's the biggest news I would say that has happened since we last saw everybody, since we last talked to everybody. Tom Brady's coming back for one more season. He spent 2 months with his family and said that's enough. I need to get back on the football field. So yeah, Tampa Bay is, Tampa Bay went from being a question mark of a team going into the offseason right back to being at the top of the NFC as far as expectations. They trade for Shaq Mason today, so they immediately addressed the fact that they lost their starting guards, one to retirement, one to free agency. So, Tom Brady continues to get what he wants from a football perspective. Yeah, I mean, we'll of course see. Does Gronk return? Feels like that's likely. Does Leonard Fournette come back? Feels like that's way more likely, if maybe not guaranteed. But Tom Brady makes anything possible as far as veterans signing with his team.
It's the decision of, do you want to make a ton of money elsewhere, or do you want to have another shot at the Super Bowl?
And with a running back, it's like, how much more money are you going to actually make?
Right. The markets out there for running backs have really dried up. So it's going to be interesting to see even where some of these rookie running backs go, because Arizona all sewn up. The Bills all sewn up. It'll just be interesting to see where they go. Miami all sewn up. Possibly.
Yeah, I mean, We'll see what happens.
We'll address that a little bit later, but
we'll see what happens with Leonard Fournette, but Tampa Bay remains a potential option for a rookie running back. And when you have Tom Brady and you can probably expect this to be for real his last season. And when I say probably, I mean maybe. you can make luxury picks like that. You can go splurge on a running back earlier than maybe you would have expected, because at the end of the day, Tampa's just playing for a Super Bowl at this point. They're not worried about 5 years from now or even 3 years from now. So you can make a luxury pick like that if you would like to. They also bring in Russell Gage. He'll be the Z receiver most likely for as long as until Chris Godwin is able to get healthy and get on the field. How much time he needs in the offseason with his rehab remains to be seen. Obviously, he tore his ACL in November, so his timeline is going to be a question mark all through the offseason. Hopefully, he's ready week 1, but there's no way we can expect that.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, things are already coming together nicely for Tampa. That would be, I would say, the biggest news that happened over the weekend.
Yeah, because it honestly wasn't even on my radar. Was it on anybody's radar that Tom Brady was going to be coming back as soon as this season?
I mean, when you retire or when you announce your retirement,
right.
That seems to be, the nail in that. But also,
I thought maybe he'd sit out a season and then come back.
Well, it was consistently reported on Twitter over the past couple of weeks, or not reported, just noted by several people that he hadn't yet been put on the reserve retired list. Like, to this point, that was not a transaction that the Bucs had made. So the fact that Brady said it didn't necessarily match the actual action of retirement as it pertains to an NFL transaction.
Right.
So, you can look at and say, well, I saw, but I mean, again, the man announced his retirement himself. So, but again, the door was clearly left open, and here we are. So Tampa goes right back. And then, you have to factor in, we've been talking about all offseason, especially when the Russell Wilson trade news happened, was how stacked the AFC was compared to the NFC from a perspective of the starting quarterbacks. Tom Brady noticed that too. Brady saw that and was like, well, that's one less team to worry about. And, talking about Seattle, Russell Wilson's gone. The division the NFC South is a mess right now. The Saints don't have a quarterback. The Panthers don't have a quarterback. The Falcons have a quarterback, but they don't really have a team outside of that. This is Tom Brady had to be looking at that like, well, I'm once again in a situation where the division looks like a wrap, no matter what the Saints do. I would have to imagine they're the closest team.
Right. He can coast into the playoffs, deep into the playoffs, basically.
Right. So he was looking at it like, well, let's take one more shot at this.
Because he wants to go out on a Super Bowl. He wants to go out with another ring on his finger. So
if he gets one more.
He probably made a whole plan with the team. Like, okay, if I come back, I want Shaq Mason. I want you guys to franchise tag Chris Godwin, even though that might not have been your plans if you were really moving off of me. I want you. So, I mean, Leonard Fournette might be coming back on some sort of deal. If Tom Brady's coming back, I feel like he would have given some assurances that, hey, I'll take a vet minimum deal just to come back to play with you for one more season.
I'll be back.
Hopefully make some history.
Right.
I feel like something like that was in play.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, when you take he originally signed a 2-year deal, right?
And what's going on, Hunter?
What's up, Hunter? Let's just finish this thought really quick.
Right.
He signed a 2-year deal originally, right? With the plan being to get one more, I would expect. And when you win it year 1, you have no choice. You got to run that back.
Right.
Like you're already on the 2-year deal. Run it back. So when he lost this year, it opened it.
And they were favorites to win it, or at least to go there for a lot for at least half the season.
Yeah.
Until that AB thing happened, but they were favorites.
Sure. Like, I think if it had reversed, if they had lost the first year and won the Super Bowl this past year, he would have actually retired. He would have for real retired.
Yeah.
But because they didn't, they left the door open. But anyway, with that, we can get to Hunter's question about where does Watson land. Yeah, I mean, right now, I would there are dark horse candidates emerging. They're talking about Atlanta being.
I don't know how much I believe that Atlanta news.
I don't know how much I buy that. I mean, look, that would be from a place of nostalgia because that's where he's from.
That
right?
would put the Falcons in such cap hell that I don't think they would ever recover. Literally, the dead cap hit from moving on, even in a trade from Matt Ryan,
plus
absorbing Watson's contract. It's just I don't think they can do that.
They would have to convert as much money as they possibly can into signing bonuses, and then that includes, absorbing whatever the $20+ million cap hit. Now, the cap hit, I think, for Matt Ryan is less following the restructure. Matt Ryan restructured his contract as well. So I don't think the dead cap hit would be as severe as it originally would have prior
it's still
to.
Pretty large.
It's still pretty
up in the
high.
$30 million range.
It's still pretty high, plus whatever Watson's cap hit is.
Right.
And then on top of that, what are they working with? Like, the Falcons have nothing. So
they're gonna have an XFL squad out there at
right.
half of the other positions.
Kyle Pitts and a bunch of. I mean, they'll draft wide receivers. They obviously will.
Right.
They'll draft at least one. They probably need to draft two, and they should probably look into a trade for a cheap option, somewhere, some way. Like, throw your 4th or 5th round pick out there for somebody who's fallen out of favor somewhere else. They have quote unquote emerged as a dark horse. San Francisco
Parham thinks he's going to the Giants. Okay, that would be interesting.
Yeah, maybe. I speculated that, or
that would be a really interesting move for Brian Dable and Joe Schoen to make.
They have the draft capital to make the move. I just haven't heard their name at all. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. Like, I haven't heard the Giants' name come up in conversations, but they could. I mean, they have the 5th and 7th picks. That's what it would take, plus more. I'm forgetting Colin Smith, I think, is it, or Corbin Smith? Sorry, he's a beat reporter for the Seahawks. I'm not sure what his connection is to knowing what's going on in Houston, but he was the one who reported that Houston was asking for 3 firsts minimum. So the Giants would have to include 5, 7, and probably their 2023 first, and maybe another player. It would just come down to 2 things. Do they want to do it? And does Watson want the Giants?
Right.
But they have the ammunition to do it. It would just be a matter of, do they want to? I've yet to hear their name in the discussion. The 49ers were rumored on Twitter for about 30 seconds today before one of their beat reporters shut that rumor down. But that package would, of course, include 1st-round picks and Trey Lance, which I would think is maybe the best that Houston could theoretically do here.
I mean, in terms of return, most likely, yeah.
I would think that might be the best that Houston could do. But then again, it did not last very long. That rumor didn't last very long. One of the beat reporters, I'm forgetting who, pretty much all said, he was like, the Niners are not in on Deshaun Watson. Again, we can only take these reports with a grain of salt. It's people know things until they don't know, right? So San
it's
Francisco
all speculation until the actual news comes through
until what actually happens.
Remember when the Dolphins were the surest thing? Now they're not even
it was
in.
Like he wants to. Yeah, he wants to go there. They will. Miami wants him. Deshaun wants Miami, and we haven't heard a peep out of that.
Right.
They also don't have a 1st-round pick this year, so that makes it a little bit more difficult. That like Miami would probably have to include their 1st-round pick last year, Jalen Waddle. I guarantee they don't want to do that. So Miami's probably not in the mix. The teams that are the most commonly linked to him right now today are Carolina and New Orleans.
Yeah, that's what Hunter L is speculating in the chat.
Yeah, well, I would say, and if the Saints get him, they have, I would say, the most ready-made team.
Maybe 49ers are in. I don't know, man.
I mean, they could be but one of the beat reporters said that they're not. Again, take anything you hear on social media with a grain of salt. But the beat reporters are closer to the situation than we are.
That would be a wild trade.
It would include Trey Lance. It would include. I mean, who do they have? What other first round? What picks do they have? They traded 3 firsts to move up to get Trey Lance. What picks do they have?
Give him Brandon Ayuk and Trey Sermon too, and just
that's nowhere close. That's nowhere close to good enough.
No.
That's nowhere close to good enough. Like, you could be a fan of your team and just want Deshaun Watson. I understand that. There are about 20 at least teams that should be in on Deshaun Watson just from the pure perspective that he would be an upgrade on what you currently have. It's just a matter of, what do you have to give Houston? If you don't have 3 first-round picks and a good young player,
what do you have to give Houston? And does Deshaun Watson want to waive his no?
And Deshaun Watson can pick where he actually wants to go.
Right.
I would think San Francisco is a viable spot. They were just in the NFC Championship game with a great head coach in Kyle Shanahan. A lot of people will give you that. Kyle Shanahan is the type of head coach yeah, I can get on board with that. Does San Francisco have enough to pull the trigger? They just gave up all their draft capital to get Trey Lance. Trey Lance by himself is not getting that deal done.
Probably going to have to give up a real good blue chip defensive piece too.
My first thought is Bosa. It would be Nick Bosa. Like, you got to give up. Like, you're not gonna pull one off on Houston here. You're just not.
Or else the deal would have been done already by another team who came in close.
Right. Are they going to trade him? Yeah, they will. And somebody will step up and give them what they want. It's just a matter of, does your team have what it takes? I don't know that the 49ers do. Now, a team like the Giants, yeah, that's conceivable. It's going to take both 5 and 7 plus more, but they have the ammunition.
Right, and they can send back a Daniel Jones. They can send back some of these other pieces.
Way less enticing than Trey Lance, but they also have the draft capital, the right now draft capital.
Tyrod Taylor just signed with the Giants, for real?
Did he? Okay. Did that just
Bills connection?
Just
that's
happen.
Another Bills connection.
There you go.
I didn't see that. That's wild. Okay.
New York signing the Aaron Wilson. He's a beat reporter for the Texans. Tyrod to a 2-year, $17 million contract. That's wow. Okay, that's certainly not nothing. That's not nothing. I mean, what are they doing? That's a lot of money.
I guess the intention is to not go with Davis Mills.
Or maybe
that's not
go,
backup money.
Not to go Daniel Jones. Yeah.
Or no, I'm sorry. Yeah, my bad.
I mean, that's a knock against Daniel Jones. 2 years, $17 million. I mean, yeah, from a quarterback perspective, it's not a ton of money, but that's not backup money. I mean, it's a little. Yeah. If it's backup money, you're paying him $8.5 million to sit on the bench.
Yeah. I expect the situation to go a lot like it did in Houston this past year. They're going to go with Tyrod for a little bit. Tyrod's not going to cut it, and then they're going to put in somebody else. The same thing happened on the Browns with Baker Mayfield. The same thing happened on the Chargers with Justin Herbert. That just happens. That just happens to Tyrod Taylor.
But
so
did they give him
again?
Did those teams give him that much money? I don't remember his prior contracts with the Browns and the Chargers.
I think he came close. Maybe not with the Chargers, but absolutely with the Browns. I'd have to look at that. But yeah.
So last year, Tyrod got a deal for $12.5 million. But again, Tyrod went in as the starter. Let me look. I'm looking up Tyrod Taylor's Chargers contract. 2 years, $11 million. Now he gets 2 years.
This isn't good for anybody.
Now he gets 2 years, $17 million.
This isn't good for anybody on the Giants. Tyrod Taylor cannot support an offense from a fantasy perspective.
From a fantasy perspective, no. Yeah.
Like throughout the times where he's been starting, he has not been able to support one fantasy relevant wide receiver outside of one season of Sammy Watkins way back.
Way back in the day. Yeah. It's less money per year. Well, for one, like again, last year he got 1 year 12 and a half. Last year he got 1 year 12 and a half. With the Chargers, he got 2 years, 11 mil. So what was that, like 7 mil?
Are they
Giants just gave him $8.5 million guaranteed. I agree. That's not backup money. That's a puzzling move. That's a puzzling move.
What are they doing?
That's a puzzling move that makes me think that first of all, like, yeah, I agree. What are they doing? But also, like, how could you possibly say the Giants are then in the mix for Deshaun Watson? Because now they got money tied up to Tyrod Taylor. They still have Daniel Jones, one more year of his rookie deal, maybe 2. Whatever's going on there. And then even if you do trade for Deshaun Watson, and include Daniel Jones in the deal, you're still paying Tyrod Taylor $17 million. Well, let's say 8.5 guaranteed. But for what?
But that's real bad for Kenny Golladay in that offense.
Unless
that's bad for Saquon Barkley in that offense.
Unless the Giants
Slim, what's going on? How you doing?
What's up, Slim? Here's my thought here. If it's somehow tied to Deshaun Watson, it's money for Tyrod to start the games during Deshaun's suspension. That would be the closest thing I can do of making sense of that move. They're bringing in Tyrod because the Giants are making a run at Deshaun Watson. Daniel Jones would be included in the deal along with the 5th, 7th picks and probably a 2023 first. Tyrod starts for however long Watson is suspended. And then when Watson comes back, Tyrod gets relegated to the bench. By that point, you maybe have paid him most of the guaranteed money in the deal.
And yeah, Hunter L., I see your point, but there are better quarterbacks still out on the market. Mariota is a better quarterback. Garoppolo, better quarterback. There are better quarterbacks still out on the market, and they opted for Tyrod Taylor, who is arguably on the same level as Mike Glennon and Jake Fromm, outside of the fact that he adds a little bit of rushing.
I think I know I understand Tyrod is not a long-term answer, but like Mike Glennon and Jake Fromm are awful.
Well, I think as a passer, he's the same level as them. He just adds a little rushing, which doesn't help anybody else outside of him from a fantasy perspective. It just makes him barely usable in 2 QB leagues.
Unless my speculation that this is a move, in fact, to hold, to kind of hold the boat, hold down the fort until Watson's suspension is over. If that's the case, this move makes, and the Giants are like, we know we have what we need to get the deal done to get Deshaun Watson. If that's the case, this move makes sense. If the Giants are not in on Deshaun Watson, this move doesn't make sense.
Agreed.
That's my thought.
And yeah, the Giants could just be tanking, I guess.
What if the Giants are just tanking? Well, they already have the 5th and 7th picks this year.
For Bryce Young next season, I mean,
they could be. I mean, but are you giving up on Daniel Jones? Like, I mean, look, I'll be honest, I'm not a believer in Daniel Jones. But like, then what are you doing with him? Are you just benching him?
Yeah, probably.
I guess.
Yeah, he was a first-round pick, but hey, so was Rosen, and he's completely out of the league.
So was Dwayne
Sam
Haskins.
Darnold is about to be playing on the bench or sitting on the bench for the Carolina Panthers this season.
I mean, hell, Baker Mayfield was the first overall pick, and it's pretty much no secret at this point. The Browns are like, how can we upgrade? Like, how can we get better? So yeah, I mean, maybe they're cutting their losses. Maybe the Giants are cutting their losses. Which, look,
you could argue that's what the Detroit Lions have been doing with Jared Goff.
Yeah, I mean, It could be. This could be a tank job.
Yep.
This could be. But then if you're gonna tank, just play Mike Glennon. Just play Jake Fromm.
I honestly believe if you're gonna tank, just take a shot on one of these quarterbacks and see if you stumble upon something.
Well,
just see if you stumble upon something.
There's now
stranger
speculation.
things have happened.
I mean, are you gonna take Matt Corral at 5?
Well, no,
7?
I'm talking about waiting on a guy. Good quarterbacks fall into the 3rd round sometimes.
You mean like
Derek Carr,
like
Dak
Desmond
Prescott,
Ridder?
Russell Wilson. Good to great quarterbacks fall into the 3rd round.
Sure, they do. Yeah, and it always
So
makes
take
sense.
a shot on one for one season.
It always makes sense to
happens.
take a shot on a quarterback if your situation is unsettled.
I would rather do that than give Tyrod Taylor 2 years.
Right.
I
keep coming back to like why do this? Why
it
you all, if you want to tank, you already have quarterbacks on the roster who are not gonna they're not gonna hurt your chances of winning so many games. Like the Giants aren't better than the Cowboys. You don't have to worry about winning the division. This move again. I'll say it one more time. Unless the Giants are in on Watson and Daniel Jones would be in the deal, I'm not really sure why they're doing this. So, well,
we'll see.
I'm not an NFL GM.
We'll see.
A high level, Ian Rappaport says a high level backup behind Daniel Jones, but again, $8.5 million. And I'm sorry, I know you're saying I don't know. I don't know that Daniel Jones is better than Tyrod. I can't sit here and say that definitively.
Yeah. He has more untapped upside, let's say, just because he is just younger. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Right. So
same tier.
Yeah, maybe they go
player.
Ritter. Maybe they try to get Desmond Ritter. I think 5 and 7. Since you already have 5 and 7, if you're doing this,
I'm just saying if they
get your two favorite players. Get your 2 favorite players again.
Yeah.
If they're not in on Watson, get your 2 favorite non-quarterbacks, and then maybe try to get Desmond Ritter in the 2nd round.
But then why sign Tyrod? Whatever.
I don't know.
Whatever. Yo, Slim, how high does Gibson go now that he's the featured workhorse?
Woo, baby.
I mean,
in drafts or
he should be back
potential
where
fantasy finish. I think he's got top 6 upside.
He's back where Nick had him last season in rankings. That's where Antonio Gibson is.
He's higher than that. I had him as the RB10. I'm prepared to go. I'm prepared to bump my projections
I
up.
think they in the draft find a way to replace.
They will. They will not
J.D.
go
McKissick.
into.
So
Right. I agree. They will not go into the. And I speaking of J.D. McKissick, we have a video out on him today. If you care to check that out, and the fallout for both the Bills.
It's a good
and
video. Check
Washington.
that shit out.
Appreciate
Excuse
it.
my language.
I expect Washington, through either free agency, whoever's left out there, or the draft, they'll add a running back for depth. They won't go into the season with Antonio Gibson, Jarrett Patterson, and Reggie Bonifant. No. They will add another guy. But J.D. McKissick was the one. Jarrett Patterson is a direct handcuff to Gibson. McKissick had a role all on his own in that offense. I expect Gibson to get more 3rd down work now. Yes, again, they will bring somebody in. I don't know who. I don't know by which means. They will bring somebody in. But I'm willing to bet.
They're not going to be the same caliber of receiving back as J.D. McKissick.
Right. Probably not. And even if they are, it'll either be a rookie or you're not upgrading that much more. Unless they sign like Leonard Fournette, which would.
I could see them going after a Kyron Williams because he's going to fall a little bit due to his combine.
I would die inside if they signed Leonard Fournette, but that wouldn't make sense for. I don't know why Fournette would do that. That would be
Williams late. That's all I'm saying.
Sure, they signed. Yeah,
but regardless, no, he's
like a James Kite or a James Cook. Right. Like they could do something like that.
Even if that happens, still a top 8 running back.
Top 8 running back, top 6 upside.
Absolutely.
I'm all in on Gibson. There's been no real new. Somebody commented on, like, this is a good point. Somebody commented on the video about McKissick. There's been no news about Gibson's leg injuries that he had that he pushed through this past season.
And honestly, at the turn,
going into his third year.
At the turn, man. I mean,
hell yeah.
At the
I got
turn,
no problem
in
with that.
redraft. At the turn.
Right now, his ADP redraft is about 29. That's going to go up. That's going to go up 10 spots easy.
Yeah. So
That's
around the turn,
easy.
Depending on how many teams are in your league.
Yep.
And he's a good bet for fantasy production.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. If you had any best balls before, basically the last 2 days, you drafted Antonio Gibson, you probably got him at a pretty big discounts.
You got him in the third round.
Yeah.
And that's congratulations. Like, you got a best ball winner, like, for now. So yeah, hop in those best balls now, boys, while you can, because Gibson's price just went up.
And Hunter L, is that Superflex or 1 QB?
Yeah.
Nick is in literally the same situation in a Superflex, but I don't think you're thinking of getting rid of anybody.
Go me. May said, what about Matt Ryan? For the Giants? What about Matt Ryan? I'll answer the question with a question. For the Giants, do you mean, or just as a trade candidate in general? Pretty big cap hit that the team would absorb if they move him, but also,
honestly, I think they're running him back one more season with Matt
which would
Ryan,
be so
and
dumb.
then he's just gonna retire.
Which would be so dumb.
I didn't even know that Russell Gage was a free agent.
Oh yeah, he's
So
free.
I thought
Well,
it's 1
not
QB.
anymore. He's not.
So would you
Picked up Watson early last year in the Dynasty,
Would you
but
move
also
Kyler? Depends what the deal you get that you're getting back is.
Yeah, I would hold both for now, unless someone's willing to give you. I mean, I would not settle for less than a top 5 pick this year. And I know it's one quarterback, but you're talking about a guy who you can plug in there for the next 8 years.
I would want more than that.
Yeah, I would hold.
I would want more than a top 5 pick.
I would hold for now because
even in a 1 QB, just because that's one of the best quarterbacks in the league from a fantasy perspective.
Hunter, I would hold, especially because Watson's going to get slapped with a suspension. So you're going to need a guy to get you if you think your team is a contender now, or at least if you're looking at your squad and like, I'm top 6 or better. Actually, even if you're not, both of those guys are still under the age of 28. Kyler's like 24. I would hold, because Watson's value might actually only go up.
No, it will only go up.
Watson's value will only go up, but to that same point, he's gonna get slapped with a suspension of some kind. So you're gonna need a starter. Kyler is a high-end option to get you through the first 6 to 8 games of the season, if not longer, if not more.
I would be thinking about moving one of these two maybe next season.
Yeah, sure.
Next season, or after this season, off season.
Let's watch Watson ball out again and let people be reminded how good he is.
That, and then I mean, you're trading for 2023 picks. You're not trading for 2022 picks, and those are more interesting in the first place.
Yep.
So yeah, it makes sense for you to just wait a year. Both of these guys can rehab their value quite a bit, because the value right now, the value perception on Kyler Murray is not
Kyler's
that great
vibes
right
are a
now.
little down too. Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. So all he needs to do is go on the field and show that he is, again, a top 3 fantasy quarterback. Mm-hmm. And then you can get probably another first out of the deal once both of them, maybe more once both of them rehab their value.
I would say if Kyler successfully rehabs his value in the first, say, half of the season, and if Watson comes back midway through next year, maybe try to sell high on Kyler. Get yourself a first plus something else, like a 2023 first and something else for Kyler, because you can you can sell Kyler as, well, he's 4 years younger, or he's like 2 years younger than Deshaun. 2 or 3 years younger than Watson. But that's not so significant when you're talking about quarterbacks. but it's enough where you can ask for more for Kyler, assuming like Kyler's going to start week 1. Watson's not. I think we can definitively say, no matter what transpires, Watson will not play this coming season week 1.
So wait a year. Yeah.
Or at the earliest, like mid-season, if Watson's playing week 8 and you want to roll those dice and Kyler's balling, you might be able to sell super high on Kyler. And then it's just a gut feeling on if you want to do that deal or not.
And Mace B, we're still waiting on your Matt Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, as far as Matt Ryan, I mean, the Falcons, I've said this.
The Panthers are signing Donta Foreman. What?
See you later, Christian McCaffrey. I'm just kidding.
See you later, Chuba Hubbard.
Yeah, Chuba Hubbard just
Chuba Hubbard just died.
Just died a little bit.
We don't want to joke about that. His fantasy value.
Yeah, fantasy value. Hey, I'll say this. Big props to Donta Foreman because at the beginning of it looked like his career was over before it started.
Yeah, he was the first guy to come back from the Achilles tear.
From an Achilles tear.
Everybody's hyping up Cam Akers for doing it in such a short amount of time, and that is amazing.
He did it in an incredible time span, but Foreman did it first.
He's the first guy to do it, and it took him years, and it took him
several years.
A few different teams. Because where did he start out?
Practice squads.
Did he start out on the Browns and then went to the Colts?
He was originally drafted.
Texans. He started on the Texans.
Yep.
Went to the Colts after
he was a third-round pick.
After the Achilles tear, and he was on their practice squad for a while.
Yep.
And then he got picked up by the Titans and just outlasted everybody there.
Well, and then that was the first stint. He was in between that. He was with the Falcons.
Right. Oh yeah.
The Falcons practice squad for a hot second. They could have used him. Yeah. So big ups to Foreman, man, because he suffered that Achilles tear as a rookie, or was it after his rookie season?
Dobbins isn't a sleeper, man. Everybody knows Dobbins is going to be good. He's not a sleeper.
Well, people forget.
But I mean,
he's he's got a third round ADP right now. I don't think. Or what's his ADP?
I don't know.
Check that. I think maybe more fourth round. I mean, some people are pegging him as that, but yeah, I kind of agree. Like Dobbins averaged 6 yards a touch as a rookie. In limited, obviously he didn't start the year. Okay, he's got an ADP of 44, so he's a fourth round pick in 12-team redraft. But I would say that he's currently the RB 17 going, so he's still being drafted as an RB 2, comfortably, I might add. Whether it's 10-team or 12-team format, I mean he's comfortably being drafted as an RB 2. Yeah, I mean, will his ADP go up after this year, assuming everything all goes well? Yes. But I would say if he was like being drafted in the 6th round, then he's a sleeper. 4th round, I would say people are privy to the fact that Dobbins was good as a rookie and should be fine post injury. I'm always leery of a guy the first year after a torn ACL. But that's also not necessarily that's not necessarily the same with every player. He could easily buck that trend just because he suffered the injury before the season started. So he just needs to avoid setbacks,
JW, I'm just shielding myself and shielding my eyes from Nick's brilliance. That's what it is. You hearing that?
Got him.
Hunter L, thank you for the sub. Much appreciated.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Much appreciated. But JW, if you want a sleeper at the running back position right now, like a real sleeper, Benjamin.
Yeah.
He's the RB2 in Arizona to one of the least durable running backs
in
recent memory.
Yeah.
He had a full-time workload last year in this very offense that he's now signed to through the next 3 seasons for $21 million.
Yeah.
He was on the same team last year, only lasted Chase Edmonds got injured in week 8, I believe.
Yeah,
week 7, week 8.
Edmonds only played, he played 10 games, 12, maybe 12.
Right, and I think a couple of them were on the tail end after James Conner couldn't stay healthy with the full workload.
Yeah, he
got
fizzled
you to the fantasy
a little
playoffs.
bit.
He didn't win you any fantasy playoff games.
Right, yeah, he got you there. He fizzled out, though.
So by the number 2 running back in that offense, they don't have the money to sign anybody else.
I mean, they'll.
That's
I would say
that's a sleeper.
Yeah, I agree. I would say that's unsettled, though. I would say Arizona remains a candidate to draft a back, especially to your point about James Conner not being durable long term. And let's be real, ain't no way he's scoring 18 touchdowns again. I don't care.
No. For what it's worth,
yeah.
Benjamin and Chase Edmonds are both 5'9", and one of them's 205 pounds. One of them's 207 pounds.
Even if you want a slightly more proven guy, I mean, just go look at Dobbins' backup. Gus Edwards has an ADP of 157. If you believe in that offense, if you believe in that ground game, that rushing attack, which you should, all they've done is proven that they're
I agree. He is a sleeper too.
Gus
so
Edwards
is
there.
Benjamin. So there you got 2 bona fide sleepers, JW.
Yeah. So, yeah, I would say look at Dobbins' backup. Look at Gus Edwards. That's a sleeper.
Yep. But we both love J.K. Dobbins this year.
I love. I mean, if I can get Dobbins in the 4th round, and I don't have to reach to get him. Yeah, hell yeah, absolutely. RB2, he drafted as an RB2 with upside for better than that. Yeah, of course. Count me in that offense.
I think we're both all in on going hero RB, right? Get your one running back earlier.
Yeah, get one and then
fill in other positions. Nick's always been a fan of going elite tight end in the 2nd round if you can.
Not always, recently.
Yeah, there you go.
Give me an elite tight end.
But then going running back later and kind of merging 0 RB and
like a modified.
Yeah.
Modified 0 RB.
Yeah.
But
so he's a candidate for that. But JW, Brian Edwards stock going up without Ruggs. I mean,
yeah,
no,
and Zay Jones. You want to talk about holy hell? The contract. We were talking off stream before about how the money that Christian Kirk got. What did Zay Jones get? Did he get?
He got something crazy.
He got something stupid.
Jacksonville is just handing out money. Yeah.
For how many years or how many catches did he have last year? 7 or 8.
I don't know, dude.
All right, so one says 3 years, 30 million. One says 3 years, 24. It's too much money. Let's put it that way. Zay Jones got way too much money. But I mean, yeah, stock up on Brian Edwards. I don't care how inconsistent he's been. There's nothing else there right now. Well, there's Hunter Renfrow. And obviously, Darren Waller comes back healthy. But for the Raiders at wide receiver, outside of Renfrow, who is the slot dude and has no impact on the outside guys, there's nothing there.
One of their priorities is going to be getting a wide receiver through the draft that they can hyper target. I've seen Chris Olave mocked there. I've seen other receivers mocked there. So Brian Edwards is going to be in the same situation he was last year, fighting for targets, except halfway through, we can't expect halfway through the year for his running mate in the offense to be completely wiped out of the game plan moving forward. Mm-hmm. Brian Edwards was given every opportunity last year. He was, and I'm a Brian Edwards fan. He was given every opportunity. Darren Waller was out. No, Henry Ruggs on the other side, and who popped off? Hunter Renfrow and Zay Jones. After the year before, it was Hunter Renfrow to a certain extent and Nelson Aguilar. Not Brian Edwards again. Am I willing to give him one more shot for one more season? Sure. Because he's still young, technically has a lot of promise.
Oh, Zay had more. Oh, he caught 47 passes last year. What? That blows my.
I'm not super high on Edwards.
I thought Zay Jones caught 20 passes.
Not anymore.
Last year. He caught 47. So I actually kind of disagree. How old is Brian Edwards? And he's going into his 3rd year, right?
I believe he will be 24.
He will start the year at age 23. He's going in. Yeah, he'll be 24 on November 13th. So he'll spend the first 2 months of the season still at 23 years of age. In his third season, I when we last talked about Bryan Edwards, I mentioned this. I have no shares of Bryan Edwards in Dynasty, in a keeper league, none. I have no shares of Bryan Edwards. You do. I am higher on his upside than you are. Because guess what? Yeah, he might be fighting for targets, but he's going to be fighting for targets with rookies. And yes, Darren Waller's going to be back. Hunter Renfrow, Darren Waller coming back hurts Hunter Renfrow more than it hurts the outside wide receivers, the X and Z
Kenyon
receivers.
Drake coming back too, so there's a pass catching running back in the fold. So he's going to take away some targets. That's all I'm saying. He's not a great caliber player or anything.
That affects more like the Darren Waller, Hunter Renfrow, Josh Jacobs of the world. I don't think that impacts the outside wide receivers as much. Zay Jones, so he caught 47 balls on how many targets? How many targets does he vacate? Zay Jones. Looking. 70. He vacates 70 targets. I would say Bryan Edwards is much more a candidate to soak those targets up than Waller, Renfrow. Like Kenyon Drake and Darren Waller are going to take targets away from Hunter Renfrow and Josh Jacobs. I'm higher on Bryan Edwards than you are. Honestly, Bryan Edwards
I think it's going to take him going to a different team after his first contract. Or on his first real contract.
I think Derek Carr's good enough to get it done.
I've been saying that for a while. And you can have all the young Devontae Adams comps in the world, but that's not where Derek Carr wins.
I'll give you a 4th round pick for Bryan Edwards.
We can talk later about something.
Okay.
We can talk later, but no.
Okay.
Honor L, Kyler, Watson, Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, Najee, Kittle, Barkley, Henry.
Jesus.
Who do I keep going into next year?
Goes 25, 35, 45, 55. I might need more clarity on that. What
pick
that
25, pick 35, pick 45, pick 55.
I mean, my first thought is if it's one QB. Okay, so this is not Dynasty then? Is this keeper? Oh, it is Dynasty. Right, it's Dynasty. Wait, how is it? I'm confused. Unless this is a different league, Hunter. How is it Dynasty, but you have to choose who to keep? I'm a little confused.
So am I.
I think I need a little clarity on your situation. Because if it's a Dynasty league, then these should all be your guys. If it's a keeper league, that makes a little more sense if you need to actually pick between some people. Yeah. Need a little bit more clarity on that situation.
And while we wait for clarity on that, JW, Edwards and Laviska seem very similar in identical positions. I don't think so.
Yeah,
Laviska
I don't
Shenault
think so about that. He's a gadgety slot,
he's not even going to be in
guy.
starting. He's not even going to be in starting sets. I don't believe.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be
Laviska lost his job to Christian Kirk.
Marvin Jones is still there, correct?
Yeah. Who else did they sign? Not just Zay Jones. Didn't they sign another receiver? Oh, Evan Ingram. Ingram is essentially a slot receiver.
And they have Dan Arnold there too to be the real tight end.
Bryan Edwards
is
maybe not an X receiver, but he's an outside guy. Maybe
he's gonna be out there in 2 wide receiver sets.
Yeah. Viska will not be.
Yeah.
There's a name the Falcons should try to trade for.
Laviska?
Sure. They got nothing else. I do agree about the coaching staff, though. I'm a little bit like John Gruden is an old head, ancient, and Dennis Allen is a defensive coordinator from
they had
from
Rich
a generation
in there for the majority of the year.
Who? What?
They had Rich Bisaccia.
Oh, right, the special. Yeah, sorry, Dennis Allen.
I'm
thinking it's something different. Yeah, he's a special teams guy from from a bygone era, basically, of the NFL. I agree. I think McDaniels is going to be better for that offense in general, and I think Edwards will be fine.
Hey, nothing would make me happier as an owner. Trust me.
Okay, well, I'm giving you the reasons to believe.
He hasn't shown me even the glimpses, really.
He's 20. I mean, not everybody is Justin Jefferson, man. Not everybody pops off.
I'm not
right
asking
away.
him to be.
Some guys. I know. I'm or Jamar Chase. I'm thinking of guys who like explode on the scene right away. Not everybody does that.
Regardless, we're still both in on him for at least this next year.
Yeah, I'm fine with him.
And for the cost of whatever it should take to get him and a player with technically his potential, I mean, it's probably worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Hunter Elliott's a keeper.
So it's a keeper. Right. Okay. I mean, my first question is, who's the best value? Like, who would be who's the cheapest? I gotta think. I want
Jefferson. It's one QB, so I want Jefferson. I want Najee.
And I want Najee. Yeah, I agree. I want Jefferson and I want Najee. Like I would.
And then would you pay the 45 to get Kittle and lock up that elite tight end?
I think I'd rather have Tyreek. Depending on who the tight ends are that are available. I mean, Hawkinson's value is way down. Dallas Goedert can be had for his ADP didn't rise too much relative to last year so far. With Ertz being gone, I would say I'm leery about Derrick Henry. Just the age and wear and tear are going to catch up at one point.
Yeah, we keep saying that, but
I mean, I guess Watson's your cheap. If Watson's your cheapest because maybe you just picked him up as a free agent last year, I'm interested in that despite it being one quarterback.
Well, I'm
interested in that.
How many you keep is how much you pay.
Right, how much you
if
can
you get up to keeping a third person, it's going to be $45.
Then it's a squeeze, yeah. Okay, I understand. Okay, I think I understand now. Got it. So for
if I'm wrong, hit us with some clarification, but I think that's what it is.
I think I understand now. But yeah, I would say I want Najee.
You're comfortable dropping 300 plus, and we'll get to the questions in the comments in the interim in a second. But if you're comfortable spending 300 plus bucks, then spend the 25, spend the 35, spend the 45, spend the 55, and probably spend the 65. So you're talking about
Watson,
buying 5 people.
I would keep Watson. I would keep Jefferson. I would keep Najee.
Tyreek.
I would keep Tyreek.
And would you keep Henry just because you have somebody who's going to get you 8 to 10 more fantasy points than the next best running back for however long he's healthy for this season?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, that's the argument that can be made in Henry's favor, especially since it's not a dynasty league.
You could probably, if your budget is 300, you can probably spend 75 there too. If my math is correct.
I don't like those Jones fractures.
So then you're keeping 6 players. So if you're keeping 6 players, I would advocate, yes, Hunter Henry as the last player.
Are we talking? Wait, sorry. Are we talking Derek or Hunter?
I thought it was Derek.
Okay, you said
with
Hunter.
Barkley.
Oh, okay.
Is it Hunter?
Yeah. Is it Derek or? I got to imagine it's Derek. I don't think Hunter Henry is not in the same class as these names.
But Jefferson, Tyreek, Najee, Henry,
and I mean
Kittle,
Deshaun.
And who else?
If Deshaun can be kept for in some way, shape, or form, if Deshaun can be kept for cheaper because he was a free agent ad and not a draft pick, then I would include him as well.
Yeah, it's Derrick Henry.
Okay. Yeah,
But then, how does that carry over? That's not helping you win this season.
Watson? Well, if it's one quarterback, you just find a fill-in somewhere else for 6 games. And we'll know. I mean, when do you have until preseason? Well, yeah. Well, if you have until preseason to determine your keepers, which I would hope is the case, then you'll know by then whether it's worth it to keep Watson or not.
Fair.
So I would, it's a wait and see for now based on that.
There you go, man. Thanks for the questions.
Yeah.
Alex, you got an offer of Derek Carr and 103 for Lamar Jackson. You have Lamar, Stafford, Wentz as quarterbacks. 10-team Superflex Dynasty, 1 PPR league. Starts 9 players. What do you think?
I'm not doing that. I'm keeping Lamar because Stafford is 34 and just had a career season. You would,
If it's
yeah.
if
I'm
it's super
keeping
flex
if it's
and you're
it's super.
starting,
It's it is. It's super
it's
flex
it's
dynasty.
super flex 1 PPR start
keeping
only
Lamar.
9 players.
I'm
I'm keeping Lamar. The upside at quarterback there is worth it.
He's a difference maker. I like Derek Carr from an NFL perspective and purposes, but he can have games where it's like he doesn't really give you anything. Yes, he's getting weapons back. He's getting Darren Waller back. He's going to get Kenyon Drake back. They'll add something in the draft.
Derek Carr had
Lamar.
his best season of his career, and I believe he was fantasy quarterback 13, 12.
Right, so he was a borderline QB1, but that was at his
Lamar Jackson had, by all accounts, a little bit of a down season. For some reason, my computer just what's going on? A little bit of a down season, and he hit quarterback 8.
Yeah.
So that's what you're dealing with here.
Is that points per game since he missed time at the end of the season?
I can't look it up. My computer just went blank. So.
Well, that's pretty rude of your computer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm keeping Lamar. The upside's too good. I don't care what anybody reads on Twitter from Twitter trolls. Lamar can throw the football. He proved that. He's not Lamar the running back. He's a great quarterback with the most elite rushing upside that anyone has to offer at the position. I'm not moving off Lamar for the 103 in this year's draft. Derek Carr in the 103 in this year's draft.
I mean, if there was another first along with that, I might consider it. If it was
a 2023 first,
if there was
that,
a 2023 first plus the 103 plus Derek Carr, I might consider that.
Yeah. Derek Carr plus this year's 103 is not enough for me to move the needle.
At the most important position, most important position.
Keep your stud.
Yeah.
Keep your stud.
Yep.
Yeah, keep your stud.
Yep. And J Rock, thank you very much. Much appreciated.
Hey, appreciate it, J Rock. If you got any questions,
let us know.
Yeah. Happy to talk anything you're interested in, but appreciate it. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for coming to hang out. With Kittle, there's a little bit of concern because Trey Lance is unproven. But Kittle's one of the best 5 options at the position right now. And I'm not worried about Trey Lance because Shanahan gives you reason to believe in his offenses. Yes, there's a little bit of downside with Kittle. 1, he's a little bit more of an injury risk, and 2, he's got question marks about how consistently good can Trey Lance be. But I mean, are we propping up Jimmy Garoppolo that much? Is Jimmy Garoppolo a more polished passer now? Sure, of course he is. But Jimmy Garoppolo is not so significant a difference maker for me that, a switch to Trey Lance over the course of the season, I feel too worried about Kittle, especially because right now he's cheap in redraft anyway. He's cheaper than he was last year.
Who is Trey Lance's main comparable coming in? Josh Allen. Not what Josh Allen would become, because that's a really dumb comparison.
Right, but what he was super
coming
raw
in
prospect with lots of upside.
Year 1, if Trey Lance can do what Josh Allen did year 1 and just get there, which is attainable for a prospect that's as good as him.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about Kittle.
Yeah, I think he'll be fine.
John Brown was great that year. And he operated as their number 1 receiver.
Was that year 2 for Allen? I feel like year 1, Allen didn't have any weapons to work with.
I think John Brown was the only weapon, and he was decent. I'd look it up right now, but
okay,
my computer's still dead.
Computer crashed. I feel like I remember Josh Allen's rookie year. They didn't have him yet, and they weren't really working with much. But he himself,
Zay Jones was there. I think that was the drafted Zay Jones.
Yeah.
Robert Woods went elsewhere. Sammy Watkins went elsewhere.
Watkins was gone. Yeah, I think they gutted their roster a little bit.
Yeah, and I should know this, but yeah.
They gutted their roster a little bit year one, but guess what? By the second half, Josh Allen turned it on from a fantasy perspective. So if Trey Lance can be half of that, again, year one, not right now, Josh Allen, but year one, I'm okay with Kittle. I'm all right with taking a chance on him, especially because, well, I mean, a keeper, obviously in Hunter's situation with a keeper league, it's a little bit different. His cost is going to be different, but in redraft, Kittle's going after Kelsey, Andrews, and Pitts. I'm okay with taking a shot on him in the 4th or 5th round because that's where he's going right now.
Yeah.
I feel fine about that.
Yeah, he's one of the best tight ends in the league. He demands targets.
Yeah, he's a top 5 option.
Right.
Yeah, top 5 tight end.
And Hunter L, you have until preseason week 2. All right, so you have time. So you have.
Yeah, you got time to figure this out.
Come back after the draft, and we'll have a little bit more clarity on certain situations. We'll definitely have more clarity on the Watson situation.
Plus, the Watson landing spot, whatever happens there.
Right.
I would say your locks today are Jefferson and Najee. And probably Tyreek.
Yeah.
Jefferson, Najee, Tyreek are like the ones that you can look at today and say, yeah, yes to those guys.
And honestly, man, I get the age thing with Derrick Henry, and I get the foot injury with Derrick
Jones fracture. Man, that makes me nervous.
But he's a year removed from playing.
Mm-hmm. Well, he played in the
just
playoff game,
the injury. A year removed. He will be almost a year removed from playing. So I'm not too worried about the Jones fracture with Derrick Henry. I'm not. Because
that makes one of us.
not for redraft, not for a 1-year situation. I know this is keeper, but not for a situation where for one season I can pay to get a running back who puts up 8 to 10 more points than any other running back in the league on a game-to-game basis for however long he's healthy. Again,
right.
I'll make that point again.
Yeah, I hear you. Right. I'd rather have a running back that scores 25 points per game for 8 games than a running back that scores 15 points per game for 17.
Right. So I could
go 8-0 or 7-1 in that span.
I would rather have Henry than Barkley in that situation.
It's just the question is is when does Derrick Henry stop being Derrick Henry? Because that will happen.
I believe in this situation when you're willing to spend $300 to get the best team.
Yeah.
Come week 1 and hopefully for the entire season, you find a way to get Derrick Henry in under that $300 because to not do so he is the ultimate outlier. We've already been over this. Yes, we can make excuses for it. But at that price, if he's willing to spend that money, he should go out and he should have Derrick Henry on his team. And if he only lasts for 8 weeks, but he's putting up 25 to 30 points a week, you're 8-0.
You're 7-1.
Yeah. Right. You're cruising into the playoffs. Maybe you have a seeding situation where you won't even have to. You'll have a week 1 bye or something like that.
Right.
That's really beneficial.
Right. You pretty much need to just win like 2 or 3 games.
If he's willing to spend the money, spend it on Derrick Henry.
I might feel better by week 2 in the preseason.
At this point, he's AP. He is the ultimate outlier of this generation from the running back.
Oh, he's an outlier
position.
For sure.
You got to stop downing him until he forces that. It's not like a Zeke. It's not like a Saquon, where we can doubt them before they hit the cliff. We got to stop doubting Derrick Henry. Hot take. I get it. I understand every single take that you have against Derrick Henry with the touches, the accumulation of work, the injury.
The touches aren't a concern yet. The accumulation of touches are not a concern yet.
I'm done doubting him.
That's fair. I understand.
And
Look, the
after a
dude's a
certain point,
monster.
I was done doubting.
It's hard to build a
AP.
Hall of Fame resume as a running back these days, and he has done it. So yeah, I understand. I know who he is. I know who we're talking about.
It's not like Christian McCaffrey, where there's 2 to 2.5 years of injury history.
Yeah.
He had one injury to his foot. He didn't tear an ACL. He didn't, and I know they offer their own complications and recovery and stuff. I'm not a doctor.
Not a doctor.
Not at all.
Not even an aspiring doctor.
No. But still, I just think.
I know he's been that dude. I understand. Yeah,
But
you
we can
can
move
ride
on.
a guy like
We've
that.
been talking about Derrick Henry for a minute now.
Yeah.
Hot
We can
take:
move on.
Pitts is better than Kittle. I don't know if that's a hot take, bro.
Yeah, I don't know if
think
that's
we
a hot.
both agree.
I think for Dynasty, absolutely. And
Yes.
I mean, right now, yeah. I mean, Pitts had a 1,000-yard season as a rookie. Yeah, I mean, I think
I'm
Pitts,
ignoring the fact that he only scored 1 touchdown.
I don't care about that.
Me neither.
Again, he was a rookie on a bad Falcons team. Yeah, I don't know. He's just good. Pitts is awesome and is gonna be for the next 15 years. He might be. I mean, I'll give Kittle his flowers. He's been crushing it for a long time now. But Pitts is different.
No, Kittle is a tier below. Kittle can get to TE1 on a season, but he's most likely TE3
Yeah, T3
most
or 4.
seasons.
3 or
He's
4.
not Kelsey. Kelsey is TE1 every year for 6-year stretch. Like
for the
he's
past 5 years.
the last guy like that, Gronkowski. There were other tight ends that were real good, but they weren't tight end 1 for candidate for 4 years.
Pitts will be a perennial tight end 1.
Yeah, just give him time.
Yep, give him a little bit of time.
And where's the best place for Watson to land in fantasy? So Nick doesn't want him to land in Carolina. I think from a fantasy perspective, that would be the most intriguing place because there are so many fantasy relevant pieces already there.
There's McCaffrey, there's DJ Moore, but that's it.
They could finally hypothetically get something out of Terrace Marshall.
Yeah.
Robbie Anderson has always shown glimpses of being a poor man's Will Fuller.
Glimpses.
And he could operate like that in the Will Fuller role with Deshaun Watson.
They got an awful offensive line.
And Deshaun Watson is the rising tide. Look at the Texans. The Texans were in the playoffs and beat the Bills the first year that the Bills went to the playoffs with Josh Allen. They beat him out. Not because the team was good, because they had Deshaun Watson. That was it. That's the reason
that Bills
why.
team wasn't quite ready yet.
It wasn't, and that's a different argument. But I'll agree with you. So,
I mean, the best take
scenario
out.
Again, my point being with bringing that up is as soon as Deshaun Watson decided he didn't want to play for them, they were one of the worst, if not the worst team in the league on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah, they still are.
So I'm not worried about the O-line in Carolina if Deshaun Watson goes there. He's dealt with that before.
He's
never had a good O-line.
Taking out the likelihood, or just take out all factors of who can or who could do it, the best overall potential scenario. As far as openings, I'll go back to the 49ers. We just talked about Kittle. Deebo Samuel was a top 5 wide receiver this year. Brandon Ayuk's play would obviously be elevated. That zone scheme where you could use Watson as a runner here and there, I would say that's a phenomenal landing spot. That's a phenomenal situation.
Yeah, it would be a win now situation too. Just NFL wise, he would be a candidate to be in the Super Bowl as soon as that happened.
Oh, I mean, they were
in
a
the
game
Super
away
Bowl as
from
soon
it.
as that happened.
Yeah, right. They were a game away from it just this past year with Jimmy Garoppolo. Deshaun Watson puts them over the top. I would say that is the team that has an opening. Well, they don't really have an opening, but they were rumored for 30 seconds to be in on Deshaun Watson. Pittsburgh would be up there. I don't know if you consider the door slammed shut on that potential opportunity because of Trubisky being there. But
I think the door's closed. I think that was the thing.
It was there because of Deontay, Claypool, and Najee. Plus, they're spending money on the offensive line.
That would have been my pick if Mitchell Trubisky hadn't been picked up by the Steelers. And
then I guess the other scenario obviously was closed because Tom Brady unretired. It would have been Tampa Bay if with a healthy when Chris Godwin comes back, you have Mike Evans. Assuming they also signed Russell Gage, that's for Watson. That's an elite duo plus a good number 3 slot receiver in Russell Gage.
The Browns, if we're really talking about landing spots, if they sent Baker Mayfield back in the deal,
yeah,
working they have with Amari Cooper.
They're thinner with
DPJ.
They just cut. Yeah, they're thinner.
Much better. Yeah, but much better O-line, much better defense.
The offensive line is good. Well, from a fantasy perspective, a good defense doesn't necessarily mean good fantasy situation.
True.
Good defense means less you have to do.
Fair.
So when you factor all of that in, I would say maybe Tampa would have been because their secondary was so leaky last year, but obviously Brady closed the door on that. So yeah, I mean either the Niners or Pittsburgh, one of those would have been good. I guess Carolina would be fine because their defense stinks. So that would be good for fantasy, but so does their offensive line. And they're outside of McCaffrey, who, again, has played, 8 games over 2 years, and DJ Moore, who we both like a lot. I'm not a believer in Robbie Anderson really anymore. Obviously, a great quarterback would help him out.
I am not either, but I am still intrigued by Terrace Marshall.
I guess Carolina would be okay, but they need to address the offensive line, and they need another weapon. They need another piece.
It would also be good for Tommy Tremble, and I like Tommy Tremble. But
sure.
There you go. Yeah, that's an overview of places that we think are good for Deshaun Watson to end up.
Spitball in some landing spots that would potentially be good.
Which quarterback is most likely going to Indy? I think. Yeah. Hey, I still think Mariota would look pretty.
Mariota would be fine.
Offense.
I mean, Garoppolo's a candidate.
Yep. Yo, Iron Never Lies. What's going on, man?
What's up, Iron?
How you doing?
How's it going? Yeah, I mean, Garoppolo's a candidate. The Niners haven't moved him yet. They better do it fast. These landing spots are getting eaten up quick. And Mariota's a free agent, right? So he could sign it. You don't need to wait on a trade for that to happen. He could sign any day, any minute. Yeah, I would say one of those two. Mariota would just cost dollars. Mariota should just cost dollars. Garoppolo would cost, probably not too much in a trade. And I'm sure the Niners are willing to recoup any type of draft compensation they can get at this point, because again, they sold the farm for Trey Lance. One of those two. I mean, you could also. I mean, they could go back to the Eagles and try another Eagles trade, get Gardner Minshew.
They could.
They could
he still
do
has
that.
Some cachet in this league. He could.
Sure. He had a good, he was good, all things he was pretty good, all things considered, on a bad Jacksonville team.
I mean, they could also just be one of the few teams in the league to just say, okay, I'm going to go and draft a rookie quarterback. It seems like nobody's doing that. It seems like everybody has evaluated that this quarterback landscape for 2022 rookies coming in and just been like, nah, I'm kind of out.
From what I've seen on social media, and again, this is just social media, the team that I would say seems to be most likely to dip their toes in this quarterback class is the Lions. So maybe that makes Jared Goff expendable.
He was always expendable after this.
Yeah, he was
next
always
season.
expendable.
I
Yeah,
think
he's
whoever
always
they
expendable.
draft is going to sit for a year,
Yeah.
and then it's off to the races.
Yeah. So Goff, I guess, if the Colts want to take a shot on Goff,
No, they should learn.
These
from,
are their options.
They
These
should
are their
learn
these
from
are
their
the
Carson
choices.
Wentz experiment.
Right.
They should treat stopgaps like stopgaps.
Right. Yeah.
And go for a quarterback that can be their future. I'm not saying when I say Mariota can be that. Mariota's a clear stopgap. You use him for a year while you maybe groom a quarterback, and then if that quarterback shows you nothing, even on the practice field, like Kellen Mond in Minnesota, because Kirk Cousins just got extended a year.
Yeah.
If it was a situation like that, then they're in a good situation to draft a quarterback high because they probably finished in a bad spot.
Yeah, you go back
with
to the
Jared
well
Goff.
in 2023. We already talked about him, but Matt Ryan would make sense for the Colts. Again, if the Falcons are the Falcons willing to absorb a huge dead cap hit? I will continue to pound the table to say they should be willing to do that, especially with Brady unretiring. That team's going nowhere fast. They're not winning division with Brady back in Tampa Bay. They should be willing to do what the Eagles did with Carson Wentz, absorb a bad dead cap hit for 1 year and then it's done. And that's it. You can get you can get compensation back if you're the Falcons. You can get draft picks back for Matt Ryan. It might not be a first round pick. But Matt Ryan's a proven player in this league. He's a former MVP. He can still do it for a few more years.
I was thinking it wouldn't be smart because of the cap situation they would incur on themselves if they did a move like that. But
eat it for 1 year when you're not.
Calvin Ridley's not going to be playing for the entire
Falcons,
season.
Yeah, you do it when you can look at the Falcons and definitively say that team has no chance this year, with or without Matt Ryan.
If they thought they had a chance, they would be into resigning Cordarrelle Patterson. By all news and by all accounts, that's not the case, and Cordarrelle Patterson will be going elsewhere. That says they restructured Matt Ryan to be able to probably make a move like this.
You want to talk about a team that should be looking to the future? It's them. It's Atlanta. So yeah, Matt Ryan. Honestly, Matt Ryan would be the best option for the Colts. Matt Ryan would be the best option
like
for the
that
Colts.
happen. Yep.
They should be willing to eat the dead cap hit because you might as well eat the dead cap hit in a year where you're not going to compete anyway.
Yeah, that was my point in bringing up Calvin Ridley. So yeah, I'm right on with you.
You could get a who's the backup quarterback right now for the Colts, or who's the guy that they have currently on
Sam Ellinger?
Yeah, you could get Ellinger back in a trade. You can draft a guy. You can get a camp battle between some of these.
Regardless.
Well, you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You still you still develop a camp battle because that's good for both players. You get the best out of an incumbent who doesn't probably have a future and a rookie. You just see what you got, see what you roll with. Yeah, you can get Ellinger back in a trade. So you still end up with
Ellinger. Let's move on.
I'm just saying.
Yo, Hunter, our league will be expanding from 12 to 16, so I feel like I have to spend more this year and sell to new needy teams. Hey, if that's the method you want to take, then yeah.
And real quick, just the second part to JW's question about what impacts Taylor. Mm-hmm. I don't care if I'm the quarterback in Indianapolis. Taylor's the 101 in redraft and top 5 in Superflex. We're fine. We're good. Taylor is still that dude. Taylor's a monster.
Carson Wentz was bad last year. Didn't matter.
He was okay.
Taylor was awesome.
He was okay in the first half of the season. He petered off in the second half. Taylor, I'm not worried about Taylor. Like I said, I could be the quarterback. I would tell you, don't worry about him.
Carson Wentz was actually good for a 4-game stretch in the first half of the season. Yeah. It wasn't even the first half of the season. So
it was like a 6-game stretch, and I don't like Carson Wentz.
It was a 4-game stretch. I looked into it, got the numbers.
All right, you and your numbers.
Me and my numbers.
Yeah, I'm not worried about Taylor. Not too worried. Not worried at all.
Hunter L, I like your strategy. Yep. In Iron, so do you think we should be worried about Najee because of Trubisky?
Nah.
No.
Similar argument I just said about Taylor.
But I do want to talk a little bit about Trubisky and what this move means, because we haven't touched on that yet.
No, we haven't.
So, I mean, and I can't bring up the numbers because my computer is still charging.
What do you want me to look up?
You
talk, I'll look it up.
I know for a fact that Ben Roethlisberger's yards per attempt in the NFL, I believe, were around the 6.1, 6.3 mark over the last 3 seasons. At least the last 2 seasons. Mm-hmm. Mitchell Trubisky's are closer to 10, 11. So
last year as a starter, his yards per attempt.
Whose? Trubisky's or Ben Roethlisberger's?
Trubisky. Last year as a starter in Chicago, his yards per attempt was 6.9. Nice. So 7 yards per attempt.
Okay, but that's markedly better than 6.3 and 6.1.
Yeah,
and
I'll look up Roethlisberger.
And that's
right
cherry
now.
Picking a year in which he kind of imploded.
Like
where was Mitchell Trubisky in his best season? Because
7.4, which was that 2018 year.
Okay.
Roethlisberger's yards per attempt last year, yeah, you're 6.2.
6.2 versus 7.4.
Trubisky can get the ball down the field better than
now
Roethlisberger
look at the attempts
at
though.
This point.
In that best season for Trubisky, I believe he threw it 514 to 516 times, and Roethlisberger this past season has thrown it at least 600 times, I believe.
Trubisky threw it in 2018. He threw it 434 times.
But in his best season, what was his?
434 times. That was year 2, 2018, his best statistical season.
And those are attempts, not completions.
Attempts. 516 the next year.
That's what I said. That's what I said.
But his yards per attempt were down to 6.1. He was bad the following year.
I wasn't making a correlation between his overall yards per attempt and the. You're missing my point.
I'm passing. Oh, I thought you were.
He has a better yards per attempt, air yards per attempt than Ben Roethlisberger.
Ben Roethlisberger's cooked. And Trubisky's not.
Wait, just let me finish.
All right.
God damn. And he was talking over me. God damn, man. All right.
I'm good. Whatever. Go.
He has a better air yards per attempt and yards per attempt than Ben Roethlisberger. But he's going to throw probably around 100 passes less than Ben Roethlisberger on average.
Because they're going to run more?
Just because that's not who Mitch Trubisky is.
Yeah,
Ben Roethlisberger is a Hall of Fame quarterback who has relied on his arm for his entire career. Mitch Trubisky has relied on his legs and his mobility and his improvisation. He's just, by that nature, he's not going to throw 600 passes. That's not in the realm of possibility for him.
No.
But he can throw 500 passes.
Yeah. So
he can still get it done through the air. The offense will be a little bit more efficient. We might not see the 12 target, 14 target, 16 target games for Deontay Johnson.
Nah.
But on the flip side, he's going to have a few more Chase Claypool-esque stat lines by the end of the week, because that air yards per attempt and the improvisational aspect and just being able to extend plays longer than 3 seconds is going to benefit both wide receivers. To that point, it's going to benefit Najee having a running quarterback that isn't necessarily a goal line vulture. Mitch Trubisky's good, and his versatility is going to help the Steelers get down the field at least at the same rate that they were getting down the field with Ben Roethlisberger, just a different way. And chances are they're going to get down the field at a better rate than they were with Ben Roethlisberger over the past 2 seasons. So I'm not worried. I don't know about you.
I'm not worried about Najee.
It was a long way of saying I'm not worried.
I'm not worried about Najee. I think he played like 85 on top. Again, it's kind of like I'm kind of in the same boat with Najee that I am with Taylor. Maybe not from a production standpoint, but Najee played 85% of the snaps. He's probably going to play upwards of 80% of the snaps again. He's just going to come through with volume. To your point about maybe Mitchell Trubisky doesn't throw the ball as much, well, that just probably means he's going to turn around and hand the ball off more.
Exactly. All pluses for Najee Harris.
Will Najee maybe get fewer opportunities catching the ball? Maybe a little bit, but the volume will be there. Najee's got top 5 upside at the position for fantasy purposes. Trubisky is at this point, and you kind of alluded to this basically with everything you just said, is an upgrade over an ancient toast Ben Roethlisberger. This offense will be fine. You can argue this offense will be better.
Yeah, I think it will be.
Because they also spent money.
It might be hard to see it week to week, but it will be better by season's end.
Or even just right now.
Right.
But they're also spending money on free agency on the offensive line. They're Pittsburgh's addressing that. They can do more in the draft. This is a deep class for offensive linemen. The Steelers will draft somebody. I don't know where, but they will. Najee will be fine. He's going to get 80% of the snaps again, and he will come through with volume. There is not a single back on that roster behind Najee Harris that threatens him for any work whatsoever. And they drafted him in the first round.
Yeah.
We're good. Draft Najee with confidence. Keep him if you can. If you have him in Dynasty, you're fine. You are fine. There is nothing to worry about. Nothing to worry about.
I'm not worried.
No.
I'm not worried. Hunter L, Michael Thomas, Kamara, Watson.
New Orleans. Yeah. I don't know that that's the best case scenario yet, though, just because it's not Sean Payton anymore. And dude, Kamara is, at least for this year.
That is a top 3 that is very up in the air from a public.
Who'd they hire?
From a public eye standpoint.
Was that why I was thinking of Dennis Allen? That's where I was thinking of Dennis Allen. He's the new head coach of the Saints, but he's a defensive coordinator, right? I mean, let me see who the Saints offensive coordinator is. Regardless, it's not the offensive guru that Sean Payton is. And again, for this season, Alvin Kamara, on top of Deshaun Watson facing a suspension, Alvin Kamara is facing.
That's what I was alluding to. And I mean, again, in terms of public perception, Michael Thomas has a black eye in terms of public perception. He kind of made it difficult on his team last year with his whole I'm not getting surgery. Okay, now I'm getting surgery at a time when I know it's going to F you guys over more than if I would have just followed your direction in the first place. Then I don't want to be with the team at all. And there's rumors that I want to play elsewhere. Like, he's kind of a headache.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't think Deshaun Watson would obviously help with the on-field aspect.
That would help.
And that's the most important aspect. The PR game plays a big role here. And you can't have a guy that might be going to jail in Kamara and a guy that narrowly escaped jail but is still facing 22 accounts of alleged sexual assault from the victims themselves on literally handing the ball off to each other like that.
Well, Kamara's not gonna. Well, he shouldn't face too much. I don't know if his penalty is that severe.
All I know is he's in hot water, bro. He's in hot water.
Yeah, I mean, let's put it from an on-field perspective, he's facing a 6-game.
I don't know if you want 2 of the most in the water players in the NFL right now on your team.
The Saints are retaining Pete Carmichael, who has been the team's offensive coordinator since 2009. Wow. Okay.
Pierre Thomas.
So there's going to be some continuity on the offense. I have to imagine they're going to run the same offense to the best of their abilities. But again, Sean Payton has been the mastermind down there. He's not there anymore. Pete Carmichael it'll be heavily influenced, and of course, over the past 10 plus years, there should be some continuity. Again, like I said,
even if Watson goes there, I mean, they already have Taysom Hill, so he's probably not even going to start.
Stop. Now you've gone too far. Now you've gone too far.
Yo, Slim, Deontay Foreman joining CMC in Carolina. Yeah, we like that move a lot.
We saw that. Good. Yeah, happy for Foreman. Good for him getting a contract. Good insurance for the Panthers in the event McCaffrey has to miss time again. Chuba Hubbard is not fantasy relevant.
And hey, that's news to me, Slim. I did not see that Jimmy G may be staying in San Francisco. I saw the movers. God damn it, why you keep talking over me?
we're playing off each other. Get out of here.
Yeah.
Relax over there.
All right, Aaron.
Relax over there.
Say what you gonna say.
No, just that they could keep him. I have a hard time. Man, you traded 3 first-round picks for nothing then?
Sometimes you learn something about a player. I mean, they drafted Trey Sermon, and they learned something about a player real quick. He wasn't their guy, and they went away from it real quick. So the way to get away from Trey Lance, if you do not believe in the talent Trey Lance, and you didn't think, and the reality of Trey Lance is not what you thought you were getting when you gave up those picks to draft him, which can happen. Again, we're bringing up Josh Rosen for the second time on this pod. Happened with Josh Rosen. The team moved away in one season, and they barely need to see him at all. And Johnny Manziel, too. The team moved away from him real quick. Now, there was some legal situations involved in that, too. But if Trey Lance isn't what they thought he would be, then why keep him even though you gave up those assets? If you know he's not it, then you would be wasting millions of dollars for the next however long you invest in him. Or you can cut your losses and get what you can get while the perception of him is still relatively high.
Which they should do if they're out on him, because unlike, you bring up Rosen and Trey Sermon, those guys their teams didn't trade 3 first-rounders for the right to draft those guys. The Niners did that with Trey Lance. I don't conceivably see how you can just I don't know. I feel like you got to give him a look. I don't care how bad it is in practice. If that's the case,
I agree.
You gave up your future. You gave up your immediate future. And in the NFL, teams and GMs and fan bases don't wait. They don't wait for 4 or 5 years to believe in a rebuilding project or a reset at the quarterback position when you plunge that many resources into it. If that's the case, then they better be in on Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
They better be. As far as Jimmy G staying in San Francisco, if that's the case, that's essentially them admitting we made a colossal mistake. And I don't know how you would survive that. I don't care how much people think positively of Kyle Shanahan.
And this kind of news has been bumbling around the internet for a while, at least on him. That the team isn't very high on Trey Lance. That Trey Lance needs more work than we thought he needed.
Yeah.
We heard that a beat reporter report that probably about a month ago. That Trey Lance he's not where the team thought he would be a year after drafting him. And there was some speculation even a month and a half ago, that Jimmy G would be sticking around. Well, that was quickly put to rest because we thought there's no way they would stick with the mediocrity that is Jimmy G, considering they unloaded that draft capital to get Trey Lance.
Yeah.
But they really could be in a situation where either we stopgap for another season with Jimmy G and hope that Trey Lance's light turns on, or we just give up altogether. And I get that it's hard to give up altogether, but damn.
Man.
Damn.
I guess we'll see.
And Slim, hey, you need Watson in Carolina for Tommy Tremble. Tommy Tremble is...
Don just said the same thing.
Yeah, I like Tommy Tremble, and I don't really
John's
even
in on
have...
Tommy Tremble.
I don't have any shares. I just like him as a prospect. Wentz is a steal in 2 quarterback leagues. The weapons he has will make him a nice late-round pick. Commander Wentz.
I can't call him a steal.
He's a value.
He's a
steal.
Nice depth option.
He's technically a value in 2 quarterback leagues, but he's not a steal.
Yes. Yeah, he's a value. I'll call him. I guess you could call him that, but I want him as my QB3.
Yeah, ideally.
I don't want to be relying on him as an every week starter in super flex leagues. This offense leaves a lot to be desired. Terry McLaurin is the team's wide receiver 1. I don't know what that means today in 2022. I know that the quarterback play has been absolutely abysmal, and I still believe in Terry McLaurin, the player, but he was a wide receiver 3 last year.
Well, I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate here.
Okay.
Who do you think is the better pure receiver? Michael Pittman or Terry McLaurin? I think the better receiver is Terry McLaurin. Not by much, but I believe that Terry McLaurin is a better pure receiver than Michael Pittman.
Okay.
Call me crazy. Technically, to your point,
close.
last live stream, Terry McLaurin got a little bit of an upgrade. And you said that
did.
before I took a poop on Carson Wentz, and then the value just went down, I feel like, in your eyes. But he's still playing with a quarterback who got Michael Pittman to a top 20, top 18 finish in fantasy. I believe he finished somewhere around there. And at one point in time through, I believe, week 10, week 9, Michael Pittman was a top 10 wide receiver.
Yeah.
The offenses kind of equate to each other. Antonio Gibson, poor man's Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah.
Only one real bona fide target in Michael Thomas and Terry McLaurin, and everybody else is an ancillary piece, pretty much.
Yeah.
Even J.D. McKissick to Nyheim Hines. So.
And McKissick is gone now.
I think Terry McLaurin has a chance to do a lot better than last year.
They got a way worse offensive line. Like that's where the downgrade is significant.
Fair.
That's where I would say the downgrade is significant.
But as long as Carson Wentz is healthy,
yeah,
I believe Terry McLaurin is in a much better situation to succeed with him versus Taylor Heineke. As for De'Ami Brown, I can't get excited about De'Ami Brown because I can get excited about Carson Wentz's number 1 target. The ancillary targets, I'm not real sure about with Carson Wentz.
I'm interested in a healthy Curtis Samuel. I don't care what anyone says. I'll keep pounding that table.
I was willing to buy in because he had been a wide receiver that we have had discussions about. I was willing to buy in.
And no
Carson Wentz cannot support. Carson Wentz has only supported one 1,000-yard receiver in his career. Michael Pittman last year. Before that, Alshon Jeffrey never reached 1,000 yards with Carson Wentz, and Jordan Matthews before him, and the list is long of wide receivers that have played with Carson Wentz.
Aguilar.
Carson Wentz hasn't been able to get them to at least 1,000 yards. Now, were they good, valuable fantasy pieces? Sure. Yeah, but they were wide receiver 3s, wide receiver 2s. They weren't wide receiver 1s.
Right.
So Carson Wentz, I'm not worried about any other ancillary piece outside of Michael Pittman and Antonio Gibson.
In on Terry McLaurin, then.
I'm in on Terry McLaurin because I think he is a better receiver than Michael Pittman.
Okay.
Not by much, by a little bit. He is a better receiver than Michael Pittman.
Yeah.
At least, even if he's not a better receiver than Michael Pittman, he's in his age apex. Michael Pittman is not yet. So yeah, I'm throwing a bone to the Terry owners. Don't be all out.
I wonder if they replaced J.D. McKissick with Curtis Samuel. Anyway.
That would be smart.
Just like a random thought that I just had. Then I would be way in on Curtis Samuel.
But I'm not super. I mean, I haven't seen De'Ami Brown's workouts this offseason or heard any news about him. I can't get super high on De'Ami Brown.
Fair enough. Arrows up on Terry. That's cool.
For Lamar,
Alex
would you accept
got like
103 and two 2023 firsts?
So you have Stafford, Wentz, and does this person have like? Obviously you probably can't ask for Derek Carr and all of those picks. Do they have like a lower end QB option that
Like
you can
just
ask
a
for
guy.
in return for depth?
Yeah.
Sure, like just a dude. Because you might not get Malik. I don't know how your league mates draft, but Malik Willis in Superflex might not make it to 103, and I don't want Corral or Pickett at 103. Malik Willis in Superflex at 103 when I need a quarterback because I'm trading Lamar, but in return I get that pick plus 2 2023 firsts. Yeah, okay. I would want to feel confident that Malik Willis falls to 103. But then I'm interested.
Yeah.
Then I'm interested because the 2 2023 firsts, I assume if you have your own 2023 first and then you have 3 of them, that's a little more enticing. That's a little more enticing than Derek Carr in the 103.
Yeah. Agreed. That would be quite the haul.
That I'm more on board with than Carr in the 103.
Yeah, I'm really glad you didn't do Carr in the 103. I'm really glad you came here and took our advice and asked for a little bit more. Now, the best thing to do would be to ask just for a little bit more. Try to get a quarterback
get that low end QB. Yeah,
his last quarterback on his roster.
Right.
And Hunter, you didn't even know what Kamara did. Well, now you know.
He assault at the Pro Bowl. He punched a guy they were at a bar, I think, and this was before the Pro Bowl was played, and then they let him play in the Pro Bowl, and then all this information came out that he was in a fight at a bar. He's getting charged with like assault and battery.
Yeah, it's not a good look. Not a good situation.
Not great. Could be facing the suspension.
And yeah, Slim, like he might have all the tools, and he might put it together, like 3 years, 5 years down the road, like a. How long did it take Ryan Tannehill?
It took him getting out of Miami.
Right. Okay. Well, I mean, it might be a situation
now,
like that, but
I'm not ready to say that Robert Saleh is Adam Gase. So, like, not totally the same. I mean, Wilson flashed last year.
Oh, I was talking about the Lance, but we're talking about Wilson. Oh, yeah.
Oh, he said right above that. I thought we were talking. Yeah, Zach Wilson.
Sorry, I didn't see. I scrolled down too far. Zach Wilson.
Okay.
Disregard all my other comments. I was talking about Lance.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, so the Jets signed CJ Uzomah today. So, that's another weapon. Elijah Moore had a wide receiver 1 stretch. It was a short one, 3 or 4 games, but it happened. I like Michael Carter. I do.
Corey Davis had a lost season, and he will be starting and healthy for this team.
Yeah.
Say what you will about him. He's unexciting, but he can be a valuable piece to an NFL team for sure.
Yeah. And they're a candidate. They'll draft a receiver. They'll draft another one. They've re-signed Braxton Berrios.
I wouldn't be surprised if they drafted Treylon Burks or somebody like that.
They could.
Like a true alpha on the outside.
They could. They're gonna have those options. They're gonna have options. This receiver class is starting to create buzz. If it hasn't already.
And Zach Wilson has some rushing appeal too. He's not a rusher, but there was a game last year where he rushed for over 100 yards, didn't he? He had a very long touchdown run late in the year.
That propped up his total.
Then he kept on rushing throughout the game, and I think he got to 100 yards rushing in the game. So he has that upside, kind of like a Daniel Jones or some of these other quarterbacks who have an arm
like
that have
Trubisky.
mobility. Like a Trubisky, a lesser Trubisky. Yeah, something like that. Trubisky's he's a bigger guy. But,
yeah.
But yeah, man, we both like Zach Wilson. We think he can bring some.
91.
We think he could be a very good quarterback too for you for the foreseeable future. I don't know if he's ever going to get into quarterback one territory, and if he does, it's low end tight end one or quarterback one territory. And
yeah,
but very solid QB2 for.
Yeah, he had a 91-yard game, so yeah, he just missed out. But that was also his highest rushing total by far. His next highest was 33, so bit of an outlier there. But he was billed as having escapability coming into the so
yeah,
it's there. It's there. But we'll see.
And you know how we feel about Trey Lance. We'll see.
That's kind of all I can say right now. It's like it feels like the jury's out on him, and maybe more in a not great way than a good way. We can't call him a bust quite yet because we haven't seen him. We've only seen him for we've seen him a handful. But I mean, yeah, they haven't moved Jimmy G. I don't know. 3 first-round picks. Like, somebody's gonna have to give him a look. If it's not San Francisco,
and for what it's worth, this is a reaction to the all-time toolsiest guy in the world with no I don't know how to say it. Josh Allen, toolsiest guy in the world, needed to learn how to play football.
Yeah,
I said at the time that Trey Lance is a pick, and people are comparing him to Josh Allen, but it's this is a draft pick to where this is a reaction to Josh Allen working out.
Yeah.
And to tie that in with this year, I think we might be seeing the same thing to a certain extent, and you have to at least be wary of that with Malik Willis.
You mean Trey Lance?
Well, Trey Lance is a cautionary tale from people going after Malik Willis right now.
Oh, I gotcha.
Just because the toolsiest quarterback in the draft worked out 4 years ago doesn't mean the toolsiest guy in the draft is going to continue to work out year in, year out, despite whatever draft capital teams, NFL teams invest in the guy, hoping that they found the next Josh Allen.
Malik Willis is also 6 feet tall. Allen is what, 6'5"?
You get my but Trey Lance, I believe he's 6'3".
I think he's yeah. I think.
But you get my point in terms of toolsy character.
Right.
Toolsy players.
Yeah.
It was not a direct comparison in their skill set and athleticism and all that stuff. It was more just a general comment on getting the guy with all the tools, which is what Trey Lance is. It's what
the
Malik
raw
Willis
prospect
is.
with the highest ceiling. Yeah.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that the ceiling will be hit.
Not at all. Not at all.
Oftentimes it's not. Yeah.
But all right, let's move down this chat a little bit.
Yeah.
The Niners were talking to Brady, and then it fell through. That would have been an interesting union if Brady went there and he taught Lance for 1 season while winning a Super Bowl in San Fran and then calling it quits. That would have been crazy.
I'm not sure what the situation would have been there, though, because I know it was a 2-year deal, but I feel like the Bucs still had Brady's rights.
And they weren't giving him up.
They weren't ever giving him up. It was either you could play for us or you retire.
Yeah. Hunter, Terry has had trash cans at quarterback.
Yes, he has.
Yes,
he has. There's no question about that. Wentz presents his best quarterback in his career.
He's a lesser trash can.
Yeah, he's a trash compactor.
I don't know.
Yeah, he's an upgrade. So stock up for Terry.
And yeah, Pittman was his only good wide receiver there. Who else was there? Nobody. And that's my point with McLaurin. Who else is there? Nobody. Yeah. So he's just going to get hyper-targeted. And while the defense is going to key in on him, Terry McLaurin is good enough to overcome that to a certain extent.
Logan Thomas is there. Wentz has a history of throwing to tight ends. That's the number two. That's the number two in the offense. Logan Thomas is there, and they committed to him, right? The team did in the form of like a 4-year extension. So Thomas will be a part of the offense as well. And like you mentioned Alshon Jeffrey, Zach Ertz had a good season that year as well when Wentz's second season. So he might be able to support two guys, but that would be it.
And Hunter, if the Falcons landed Garrett Wilson, that would kind of suck.
He'll get all the opportunity.
He will, but like I want better for Garrett Wilson. I like Garrett Wilson. I want better for him.
I mean, Matt Ryan is still a good quarterback.
Until they move on from Matt Ryan this offseason, trade him to the Colts like we speculated, and then they're rolling with Felipe Franks.
Well, if they do what we think is what we believe is the smart thing to do, and what they actually do are two totally different things. Yes. I'm not convinced that the Falcons are forward thinking enough to do that. To that point, if they stick with Matt Ryan as their quarterback and Garrett Wilson is competing with air for production, then Garrett Wilson will be fine.
True.
I agree that would be a good spot for him.
I just want better for him. But yes, that would be.
I don't know if Burks is gonna fall, but the Falcons need a wide receiver.
Bad.
Worse than anybody else. They got the worst. Olamide Zaccheaus is their number one right now. They would do well to spend high on a wide receiver.
That's wild. Olamide Zaccheaus. And yes, Slim, yep. It's just an unfortunate situation.
Yep. Okay.
Thoughts on Eno Benjamin with Chase leaving? We touched on that a little bit.
Sleeper.
I can go back and he was the sleeper that I brought up today, and I do have a couple more sleepers. So if you want to go over some of those, I would actually like to talk to you about some of these guys.
Rattle off a couple?
Well, yeah, Benjamin's one. He's only 22 years old, will be 23 when the season starts. He's athletically has the same profile as Chase Edmonds, both 205, 207 pounds, both 5'9", and both ran a 4.55 40, basically.
Pretty good.
So basically, same dude, and Connor got all the money in the world, so they're not going to be able to afford to bring in anybody else. So Eno Benjamin looks to be the Chase Edmonds. And Chase Edmonds, when Eno Benjamin and Chase Edmonds, and James Conner and Chase Edmonds were playing together, Chase Edmonds was, I believe, the running back 19. Even with James Conner there. And I know James Conner's going to be garnering a lot more work. But Eno Benjamin should have at least a shot to be a top 24 running back.
If they don't add anybody else with significant draft capital, if they draft if they draft a running back in the 4th round or later, then I agree. If they happen to be one of the teams that drafts one of the running back, one of the higher end running back prospects, obviously that projection takes a hit. But if they wait to add somebody, sure. Yeah. And with an ADP probably in the 200s, now is the time if you play best ball to take that shot, because you're not going to have to spend any draft capital to grab an Eno Benjamin right now. His ADP is probably without even knowing it, without just spitballing, it's probably 230. You can have him at the end of best balls. I'm gonna look that up right now. Who's another sleeper you got?
Rondale Moore, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Because in the fact that they lost Chase Edmonds, and lost in the fact that they lost Christian Kirk.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have to pay a lot to get Rondale Moore.
Rondale Moore's, I know you're talking about Dynasty as well, but Rondale's current ADP is 111.
No, I'm talking about any situation, because I believe that any format, because even in redraft, you can probably get him close to the last round, and he technically has the upside of a Cole Beasley at the age of 23. If he lands the safety valve for Kyler Murray's spot in that offense, and they actually fulfill on the promise of using him, targeting him further down the field, which is something that the coaching staff has alluded to wanting to do. If they actually do that, do both those things, Rondale Moore is going to be a value, and he's going to have a chance to be young Cole Beasley for the Arizona Cardinals.
Could be young, just Christian Kirk.
Yeah. Well, Christian Kirk's bigger. Cole Beasley comp was
sure. Okay.
Same size.
You're a physical. I mean, I guess I was just thinking more along the lines of the role, because he should fit right in. And by the way, Eno Benjamin's current redraft ADP is 238. So
free. Rondale Moore, what's Moore's?
111. So not free, but still double digit round ADP even in 12-team leagues. So for Christian Kirk's ADP, I think got up into like the 8th or 9th round last year. So yeah, and they have, for whatever this is worth, Arizona is more than okay with letting Andy Isabella seek a trade. So they're clearly not worried about that moving forward, despite the fact that they let Christian Kirk walk. So yeah, I can get on board with Rondale. He flashed in the beginning of the season, and then that was kind of it for him. But again, the rookie. You can't possibly worry about rookies not making a splash right away. If that's what happens, you just go right back to that well next year. No,
the team went to AJ Green pretty much after week 3.
Yeah,
it was the AJ Green show out there. So
Yep.
All right, I got another sleeper for you. Wide receiver.
Let's give us one more.
He's on the Cowboys. Amari Cooper is gone. Cedric Wilson is gone. Blake Jarwin is gone. Michael Gallup is recovering. I know he had signed a $5 million deal. Cedric Wilson got signed by the Miami Dolphins.
Oh, yeah, the Dolphins. I missed
Gallup is gone. If you look at Noah Brown and Malik Turner, the 2 wide receivers that were there that picked up a little bit of the slack when some of the other wide receivers last year were hurt. They both ran in the 4.6, 4.7 range. They're not fast receivers.
Okay. Gallup re-signed, by the way.
Yeah, I know. For 5 years.
Yeah, okay. I thought I heard you say he was gone.
No, he's recovering, but he's a long-term asset for them.
Got it. Okay.
Simi Fehoko ran a 4.44.
Yeah.
He's 6'4". He's 6'4". He's 24 years old.
Yeah.
He is a little bit older. Will be 25 years old, I believe, when the season starts. But
that's not bad.
A lot of targets vacated in this offense.
Yep.
While they are a threat to draft a wide receiver, if they don't, Simi Fehoko has a chance to start in 4 wide sets.
In 4
He has a chance to be. And I was watching a little bit of his tape before we went on stream. He has a chance to be Gabe Davis for the Dallas Cowboys. That's what I'm not expecting Simi Fehoko to come in at 6'4" and be Cooper Kupp or I'm just expecting him to come in and be, he could be a good wide receiver 3 type guy, even though he has the alpha build 6'4" type guy.
Yeah.
From a size speed perspective, he's a outlier, to say the least. He's up there closer to Julio Jones' athleticism in terms of size speed territory. So if he does put it all together, he has a very high ceiling. But I believe because of the other incumbents in this offense, you could be looking at more of a Gabe Davis type guy who might not see a ton of action, but when he does, has the athleticism to do the most with it. And could be a red zone threat for this team. So,
hey, Slim, thank you, man.
Thank you, Slim.
Appreciate that very much. Appreciate the support and the contributions in the chat today. Appreciate that very much. Always happy to talk. Always happy to have this conversation. And I am all in on Elijah Moore, man. He's talented. I think he's going to be the focal point of that passing attack, regardless of who the Jets draft. And they will draft a wide receiver. I feel pretty confident in saying they will draft a wide receiver. But the Jets are trending up. They're not in the Bills territory. They're probably not even in the Patriots territory quite yet. But this offense is intriguing. It is young. I am in on their pieces in a way that I was not last year. I liked Elijah Moore last year, but I wasn't going ham, like drafting him every opportunity I could. This year, he absolutely, he was on a tear and then COVID hit. And like a lot of guys, it takes time. Like if COVID actually hit you, it takes time to recover from that.
Yep.
And he missed time at the end of the season, one with that, and then two, I think he picked up a couple of injuries at the end. And again, the Jets weren't playing for anything by week 16, 17, 18. So, yeah, big fan of Elijah Moore. I traded for him in Dynasty this year. It wasn't the most cheap, but I feel good about that trade. It's only like 21 years old.
Yeah.
I think for like a 2-game stretch, he was like the wide receiver 2. So, again, about as small a sample size as you can get, but he did it. It happened for those 2 or 3 games. He crushed. I feel good about him. And honestly, if they draft another receiver, it's going to make it more difficult. You can't key on just one guy. I like where this Jets offense is going. I do. And really, it's a discount offense for fantasy purposes because there's a stigma attached to the Jets. There's going to be discounts up and down the board for this offense. And Elijah Moore in the 5th round feels a lot like, as far as value goes relative to expected production, feels a lot like I was able to get Deontay Johnson in the 5th round every time last year. Feels like that could happen like a similar situation. And again, if you can get that, and Deontay Johnson was a wide receiver 1 with a corpse at quarterback and Ben Roethlisberger. And Zach Wilson he is. I mean, he showed out a little bit last year. The Jets did. It was like, I remember that. That was week 17. It was championship week. It was like, what in the world are the Bucs doing? They're getting, at least early on, they were getting crushed by the Jets. So yeah, there's potential there for sure. Absolutely.
No, he reminds me of a Brandon Cooks type, where it doesn't quite matter what quarterback he's playing with. He's speedy enough.
Yeah, he can just
and
ball.
Savvy enough with the ball in his hands and savvy enough at getting in space that it doesn't matter that he's 5'9".
Mm-hmm.
And he has the speed and he has the football smarts to get it done. So yeah, I like him a lot. And the Jets, they signed Tomlinson and another good O lineman. So yeah, they're trending up.
And Uzoma. That Ole Miss wide receiver pipeline, man, it's looking good. DK, AJ Brown, Elijah Moore's a completely different mold from those guys, but that Ole Miss wide receiver pipeline is starting to be a little something.
Force is strong. But yo, Slim, I agree with you, Justin Fields and Wilson, but Fields, we haven't touched on him at all this stream, but Nick and I are both very high on Justin Fields.
Big on Fields for sure. They need a receiver. And whether that comes in the draft or probably will come in the draft. At this point, there's probably not a free agent receiver that will get you too hype about.
They could sign Allen Robinson.
Oh yeah, they could. They could totally do that. Who do the Bears? I'm sorry. Who's the Bears? Who'd they bring in as head coach? Oh, Eberflus. He's the defensive coordinator. Who's their offensive coordinator? Bill Lazor. Okay.
He's no Adam Gase, but that's not something.
Or no. I'm sorry. That was last year. I'm sorry. Luke Getsy. Was he with the Packers? Luke Getsy. Quarterbacks. Okay. Passing game coordinator. All right. Fine. Anything's an upgrade over Bill Lazor. For a split second, I was like, oh crap. That was last year. This is this year. Anything's an upgrade over what they had last year. Yeah, I feel fine about Fields. I think Fields was the quarterback you might have been thinking of that had a 100-yard rushing game.
Yes.
So,
But I thought Wilson did too, but it was 91.
Close. It came real close.
Yeah. And Colt McCoy, starter in Arizona. You're funny, bro. You're funny, dude. You just got offered Palmer. You like Palmer. What are you getting back for Palmer? What are you giving up for Palmer? I like Palmer too. He might be a few years out. You might have something if you hold on to him.
Maybe.
How long was Mike Williams signed for? Was that 3 years?
3 years, $60 million.
Okay. And,
but I mean,
Allen,
I mean, Justin Herbert, man.
Oh yeah, but I'm just seeing. Is there any route to like how old is Keenan Allen? Is he gonna be 30 this year? When's his contract due? I'm looking for the future in terms of Josh Palmer.
Allen is 29, will be 30 next month, though, right before the draft.
I'm not worried about his age, really, but what about his contract?
He's a technician. I'm not too worried about that. I will check that right now.
Okay, so after this year, they can cut him and save $19 million.
I wouldn't necessarily do that, though.
I'm not going to assume that they're going to do that, but that is within the realm of possibility, considering $19 million is not small change. You could almost sign the top wide receiver on the market for that.
Yeah. He's going to have to ball out to stay, but he's been a wide receiver one for the past couple of years, so it's not like it's not possible, because all he has done is do it.
But Josh Palmer, if you're willing to wait, we all thought maybe there was a chance that he could slide into the number 2 role in that offense as soon as this year. It's not going to happen this year. You might have to wait 2 seasons. But he could grow into that role. He could grow maybe one.
Depending on what the asking price is, I mean, yeah, I can get on board with a receiver like Palmer moving forward.
Yeah. Because given the opportunity, he's performed like a wide receiver 1 in fantasy.
He's good. I like him.
Yeah.
He's good.
Yep.
But yeah. No, I'm excited. Yeah, and excited about this wide receiver class. Curious. I'm excited to see where all these guys land. It's going to be fun to figure out all those chess pieces once the dust settles on landing spots.
I mean, we don't want to get ahead of ourselves and say it might be the best wide receiver draft class in 10 years. I don't think it's that.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see.
It might be it's one of the deeper wide receiver drafts, but I don't know if it's one of the best. Only time will tell. We did just have
it's gonna be fun.
Last year, Jamar Chase. The year before that, Justin Jefferson.
CeeDee Lamb.
It's gonna take a lot for this wide receiver class to be the best in 10 years.
Michael Pittman. Who else went?
But it is the strength of this draft.
Yeah. Jerry Jeudy, I still believe in.
Yep.
So I forget what I was looking up just now, but yeah, we'll see. Brett, what's going on, man?
What's going on, Brett?
Penny. What do we know what is his status? Is he still a free agent?
He's still a free agent. Chris Carson is still the Seattle Seahawks RB1 going into next season as it stands right now.
So just really quickly looking on Underdog Fantasy, Penny's ADP is 99. That's not you don't have to spend that much at all.
I'd be willing to take that shot.
Yeah, absolutely. He was the RB2 for that end of season stretch
6 weeks, I believe. Yes.
I was gonna say 3 or 4, but I mean but that could be right.
Maybe not RB2, maybe RB4, but you get my point.
I think he was the RB2 like championship week or maybe the semifinals week, something like that. But yeah, and he had an outstanding finish to end the season, no question. So by this metric in a 12-team redraft, he's going in the 8th round. So first of all, that's fine, done. I can take the plunge on. Let's say he resigns with Seattle. the news has been optimistic about Chris Carson. What's the most recent update?
He was on my sleeper list to talk about Chris Carson.
Oh, Carson was?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. The news. So we got. I think didn't we get a positive piece of information about Chris Carson and his recovery and how he should be okay, or how there's potential for him to be ready for training camp. Here's the thing, though. If the Seahawks aren't in on Deshaun Watson, they are facing a rebuild. Chris Carson, therefore, does not fit into their long-term plans. Rashad Penny might not either, but he's closer to it. Therefore, I would
he's already
think,
signed. They wouldn't have to do cap gymnastics to get one off their team and get another one on.
Yeah.
They love Chris Carson, or they wouldn't have continued to put this much faith in them as they have.
Yeah. How old is Carson?
They don't. I believe he's 27.
Yeah, he is. He'll be 28 at the start of the season.
There you go. So I think they just run it back with Chris. If they're in a rebuild, they're not worried about seeing if they can realize Rashad Penny's potential. Getting in a rebuild, the last thing you should do is worry about running back. That is
Agreed.
So I don't.
But could that mean? And again, this is under the assumption that a team does what might be the smart forward-thinking thing. If Carson is healthy in week 4 or 5, and Seattle is 1-4 or 1-5, do they trade Chris Carson to a running back needy team, which ultimately will happen because running back injuries always happen? Just throwing it out there. He's gonna be 28 for most of the season. We just talked about how running back is like the last position to worry about if you're in the middle of a rebuild, which again, Seattle will be if they're starting Drew Lock.
I don't think
week
so.
1.
No.
Yeah, probably not.
28-year-old
running
back with that was gonna hit the age wall sooner than later anyway, but is coming off a neck injury is the last thing I would be wanting to trade for if I was an NFL team, much less give money to. But the Seahawks already did that, so they're settled with that. I think they have to live with their decision. But regardless, drafting Rashad Penny where he's going right now is a value.
8th
so
round?
get it while you can.
Sure. I mean, in the 8th round, you don't have to overspend. He's a guy that's not far away from an RB1 opportunity because again, all of this also depends on your own personal belief in Chris Carson. And Brett, you might be much closer to the situation as far as like taking your temperature on the team and where we're at and what the situation is on each of these individual players. If Carson is not ready for training camp, I don't care if it's for the first 6 weeks of the season. Penny's a value in the 8th round because he'll be the team's RB1. So yeah, just inside the top 100 for ADP. I'm all over that.
Yeah,
I'm all over that.
All right, let's speed through some of these chat questions because there's a couple in here. Hunter L, I see yours. It's a little bit more open-ended and there's a little bit more of a discussion. Plus, I do have a few of these sleepers still. But yeah, more camp you covered. Rashad, we got you. Brett Forseth, thanks for coming and chilling with us.
Yeah, always.
Slim facts. Tyreek destroyed teams in week 15 with
COVID,
COVID
man.
recovery. Yeah.
COVID hurt. COVID can wreck you for a couple of weeks if it got you good, and we saw it happen, and it happened with more. So I feel fine about him next year.
Yep.
At what a slight discount will be in his ADP.
And the Jets will be throwing a lot because they will be playing from behind a lot.
Yeah, they're still a team they're still a work in progress, and they're at best right now the 3rd best team in the division. So yeah, they'll be throwing. So
Brett Forseth, rumor has it Seattle wanted to trade Russell Wilson and draft Josh Allen in 2018. Paul Allen said no. I'd like to see the Seattle.
I would have said no to that as well at the time. But yeah, I think Ritter's stock is up right now. There's going to be somebody is going to not be able to pass up the what he put on display at the combine. Seattle would make sense again if they're not in on Watson. They are looking to the future.
Ritter's an interesting
100%.
He's an interesting pick.
Mm-hmm.
He's an interesting prospect because if there's anybody that compares more to Jalen Hurts than him, I don't know where they are. To exactly what Jalen Hurts is. A quarterback that, from an NFL perspective, you look at him and think, wish he had more arm strength. Dude's electric on the ground, though. That's what you think about Jalen Hurts, right? As an Eagles fan.
Yeah, I mean, he's a dynamic, playmaker at the position who leaves a little bit to be desired as a thrower.
That's what Ritter's ceiling is. When we talk about Malik Willis, we talk about somebody who has a higher ceiling than Jalen Hurts. But with Jalen Hurts, you see the route to fantasy production.
Oh, yeah, no question.
Ritter actually compares to Jalen Hurts. It's not just using him to illustrate a larger picture. But he also
fantasy
could also be Kellen Mond, so watch out.
Well, let's not put that on anybody, please. No, Ritter could be fun. And in that regard, hopefully it somehow works out for him.
Yep. And yeah, Cooks and Moore, I think, are
McCaffrey, or the McCaffrey owner wants Foreman for Palmer. Yeah, I might take that. I would take
Berrios
that.
and Palmer for Foreman. I'd do it.
I would just do Foreman straight up.
Try to get
but
more.
If you can get a little more, because if the CMC owner's coming to you wanting the handcuff, then you're playing from a position of power. Yes, you can ask for a little bit more. If he ultimately says no, I would still do Palmer for Foreman, because at the end of the day, how old is Donta Foreman?
26.
He's gonna be 6. Oh, he's 25, but he'll be 26 in April, so next month. But
so 26 when the season starts. Yeah, same.
Right, but I mean, Foreman at this point now he's a good option for NFL teams, and he's a good backup running back with upside if he's forced into a starting role. But I mean, how old is Palmer? 22.
You're buying low on Palmer and getting Berrios on your team.
He'll be 20. He'll be 23 when the season starts. I would do.
And you'll be
if
happy
push
that
comes
Berrios
to
is
shove
on your team at some point. You will.
Yeah, Slim. If push comes to shove and it's just Palmer for Foreman straight up, I would still say yes. I would still say yes.
Yeah.
I would definitely still say yes.
And Hunter L., this is the question that I was talking about that was a little bit more open-ended. Who are the best rookie wide receivers for fantasy? We don't know the teams, but who pops out as of now? Who are your favorite guys? And then I'll go through some of mine.
I mean, I like the Ohio State guys for sure. I like Garrett Wilson. He reminds me of Deontay Johnson. I love Deontay Johnson. I've warmed up to Olave. I think he's a really smart player. Plus the 40 that he put on display. Not that the 40 is everything. We can't always, we can't be married to just the 40 time, but speed talks and kills in this league. So on top of Olave's pedigree as a smart football player, he knows where he needs to be. He can read defenses. I'm in on him. And I like Jameson Williams for the upside. I know his stock is tumbling a little bit right now because he's injured. He's not really he literally can't showcase what he can do because he's recovering from a torn ACL. But from a long-term outlook, a long-term perspective, that man averaged over 40 yards on each of his touchdown catches this year at Alabama. I know he lost his job at Ohio State to the guys I just mentioned, and he had to move on, but he just so happened he didn't move on to the A10. He moved on to the SEC and dominated. He was a highlight reel at Alabama. And I know Bryce Young is the next big quarterback prospect that everybody's excited about, but it was still SEC competition that he played well against the best of the best. I'm long-term. I want to believe in Jameson Williams. I think if he's able to regain that explosiveness prior to the injury, I like his long-term outlook.
There you go. I agree with everything you said.
Oh,
literally
that's
everything.
great.
My comp for Garrett Wilson, I agree with your comp. I would also say a more athletic Calvin Ridley.
Woof.
is the ceiling comp for a guy like Garrett Wilson, more athletic Calvin Ridley.
Yeah.
So to see him go to the Falcons would be interesting. I will say that.
They'll
both
be
of the other guys
one of these guys.
Like both of the other guys that you mentioned, there seems to be, at least for me, a top 7 wide receivers in this class. Treylon Burks.
Yes.
There's been some rumblings that he could be N'Keal Harry because he didn't show out at the Combine. I think that's crazy.
Yeah, the Combine wasn't like the best, but also...
He ran in 4.5. Lots of wide receivers run in the 4.5s, and lots of wide receivers aren't 6'3", 225 pounds, which is what I believe he is. He just brings something to the table. He was measured at game speed, at the same speed that DK Metcalf is measured. He didn't test well, but he plays fast, and his tape is good. I'm not worried about Treylon Burks. I don't think he's the next N'Keal Harry.
No. I can't possibly, put that on him.
No.
I watched him reach a max speed of about 22 miles per hour on a touchdown catch where he blew by multiple defenders. Treylon Burks.
What he
I'm
could
not
be
worried about
is Josh Gordon without the...
I mean, he's got the physical makeup.
I mean, he's not quite as jacked, but there's room for him to grow. He's not even an NFL rookie yet. So Treylon Burks at 1. I'm not too worried about his combine. It almost doesn't matter where he goes.
Yeah.
For me. Garrett Wilson, number 2. Agree with you. Chris Olave or Drake London for me at 3 and 4. It really depends what kind of wide receiver you like. Nick's been vocal about liking the shiftier, more versatile wide receivers who play on the inside and the outside versus the outside clasher, just because, and this has been proven, their careers are longer.
Yeah.
We've seen guys like Alshon Jeffrey. We've seen guys like R.I.P. Demaryius Thomas, but Demaryius Thomas kind of just fall off after the age of 28. And that doesn't happen to the shiftier guys like Keenan Allen and AB who are playing well into their 30s. So it fits more into that archetype of guy. That's Olave. Drake London, well, he doesn't play like somebody who's 6'5". He's 6'5".
He's versatile too, in his own right.
That's what I mean. And when I say he doesn't play like somebody who's 6'5", he's not just a jump ball receiver. He can work after the catch. He can. If you put on his tape, you wouldn't it's not that you wouldn't know that he's 6'5". You notice that he's 6'5". He just does a lot of things that wide receivers who are 6'5" don't do. You don't see him doing. He's not the run, jump up at the catch point and fall over guy.
No.
He's run, jump up, adjust to the ball nicely. And Mike Diggs, thank you very much.
Appreciate it, Mike.
Very much
Thanks
appreciated.
so much.
We'll get to your comment in a second.
Yeah.
But,
absolutely.
But yeah, I mean he's very sorry, I'm distracted by the super chat. That's so nice of you, Mike.
It was very kind.
Very kind.
You're talking about Drake London and his, inside-outside game.
He's just a whole lot more fluid and a whole lot more impressive with the ball in his hands than most receivers I've seen who are 6'5", which leads me to
He's also
believe
recovering from an injury as well in his own right.
But I know we were speculating, is this guy going to be Miles Boykin? Is this guy going to be Equinemius St. Brown? Is this guy going to be... No, I think he can be more because of what he offers after the catch and how he adjusts at the catch point to make room for yak yards.
Yeah.
But all right, Mike Diggs. How limited is Jamal's? Who's Jamal?
I think he's Jameson Williams. I'm talking about. I believe so.
Got you.
I believe we're talking about Jameson Williams here. Yeah, I mean, so he's still a work in progress in that regard. He was able to kind of dominate with straight line speed and explosiveness, where it was kind of like just send this man downfield, right? So he's got some learning to do. There's going to be a bit of a learning curve for him depending on where he goes. So it could be a situation with Williams. I'm ready to admit, I am very intrigued by him as a prospect. I like him, but I'm also prepared to admit it might not be, right out the gate. It might not happen for him right away. There's going to be a learning curve. Here's the positive spin on that. He's going to have time because he's recovering from a torn ACL that he suffered in January. He suffered it late, literally in the championship game. So he's not likely to be ready for game speed or game action week 1. And a lot of his offseason is going to be focused and centered around rehab, not necessarily direct football activities. So he might be behind the 8 ball a little bit to start. So I am preparing myself for year 1 to be a wash on him. 1, because of the recovery from the injury, and 2, yes, that's kind of one of his weak spots right now. He needs to learn the route tree a little bit better. He's a little bit more of like he's like, let's just run a go route with this guy and let him run past you. He's going to have to do more than that in the NFL, especially coming off the ACL tear. So he's got some work to do. But he's expected.
Two guys that I see him becoming in the NFL are guys that weren't huge route tree runner. Like, they had a few routes that worked really well for them, and it almost didn't matter. Deshaun Jackson, when he was just stretching the field going long, it didn't matter that he was running one route a game. I'm not saying that, that's hyperbole. But it just go long, and whoever's the quarterback, whether that's Carson Wentz at the time or Donovan McNabb or whatever, Nick Foles, whatever, he's just going to beat the guy that he's going up against because he's that fast, and he can beat him, and he's agile enough to beat him with a double move and just blow past him. Will Fuller, same thing. Fuller,
yeah.
That's what I see Jameson Williams being in the NFL.
Straight line speed, baby.
So it doesn't quite matter to me that he might not have the most developed route tree. If he does develop a route tree, phenomenal. But I don't think he needs a route tree, that complex of a route tree, to see success in the NFL. He's not that type of player.
And that's okay. That's all right. If he lands, so I think it was Hunter who said if he lands with the Packers, I mean, hell, if we have to wait until year 2, Aaron Rodgers is there for 3 more years. I mean, we all know by now there's not much in that receiver room outside of Devontae Adams, who has already been threatening to not play under the franchise tag. If they commit to a wide receiver in the first round, like they should have done, like when they drafted Jordan Love,
few seasons,
that is such an ideal landing spot for him because he's going to be catching passes from a Hall of Fame quarterback and one of the best to ever do it. Best I've ever personally seen from just a sheer talent perspective.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm not too worried about the route tree. He'll also probably have some time in his rehab to maybe learn a little bit more while he's recovering from the injury, because again, I'm not expecting a year 1 explosion from Jameson Williams. He's more of a long view type of guy, but yeah, he's got that makeup of a Will Fuller.
A guy I like a comp to for some of you older heads out there, Mike Wallace.
Poof, yeah.
Mike Wallace is a guy that I could see having Jameson Williams. He's not going to burst out the scene year one. Neither Deshaun Jackson kind of did, but not quite to the extent. And Mike Wallace, neither of them burst out the scene year 1, but by year 2, they were wide receiver 1s, and they were basically running fly routes. So, yeah, I'm not too worried. As for Sky Moore and Christian Watson, 2 of the biggest risers after the combine. Sky Moore, 5'10", 195 pounds, and ran a 4.41, which is real good.
Zooming.
Real good. So Sky Moore was a fringe wide receiver. Now he's just outside of that group that we were mentioning before. He's just outside of the Jameson Williams and the George Pickens and the Jahan Dotsons. He's right there. He's probably the 8th best wide receiver in this draft. And depending on where he goes, could be real exciting. Could be real enticing. Christian Watson, same thing. Size, speed, freak. Mimics a lot of the same things that we were saying about Simi Fehoko. 6'4", 208 pounds, 4.36 at 6'4".
That's awesome.
And he went to the the Senior Bowl this past year. And he was, by all accounts, along with Calvin Austin and Jalen Tolbert, the best wide receivers there. He was better than Jalen Tolbert, and he was better than Calvin Austin. People came in to the Pro Bowl expecting not to see more from Jalen Tolbert and Calvin Austin. They weren't expecting to see a lot from Christian Watson, and he came out of the Senior Bowl probably the best wide receiver. Now, is that because with minimal scripting, quarterbacks that are learning a new game plan will just hyper target the big tall guy because they see the big tall guy? Maybe. But he still looked great out there. And then he blew up the combine, posting measurables that, let me just, RAS score. I know I only bring it up for tight ends, but I got to bring it up for wide receivers.
Do it.
Because I believe, let me just look this up, that he is in rare company.
It's like he crushed the combine. Yeah.
But, I mean, we're not even talking. Okay. Joe Webb has the best RAS score of any wide receiver turned into a quarterback. The next is Calvin Johnson. The next is somebody from Germany who was signed to the Vikings. Moritz Boehringer is part of that NFL bringing people over from overseas program. Didn't amount to anything. Matt Jones, a wide receiver, didn't amount to anything. Isaiah Weston in this year's draft. And then Christian Watson. So there are 2 wide receivers with top 8 RAS of all time in this year's draft. The guys that followed those 2 guys, Isaiah Weston and Christian Watson, Chase Claypool, Julio Jones, Andre Johnson, Javon Walker from the Packers back in the day.
Ah, man, what a name.
Vincent Jackson. I mean, that company that they're just ahead of.
It's good.
Both of those guys. Very good company. So don't sleep on Christian Watson. Could go later than some people are thinking.
So are you taking Watson over Sky Moore, like, between the 2 of them? I like them both. It's kind of where they end up landing at. Landing spot,
like,
and then
I
guess
don't like Christian Watson's landing spot, but I like Sky Moore's a little more. I'm going to go Sky Moore, even though technically the upside that we could see with Christian Watson is almost unparalleled.
6'4", 4'3", 40. I mean, come on. And then it comes down to, like, do you like guys? It's kind of like that Drake London, what we were just talking about, Drake London versus Garrett Wilson. Do you like that guy who's a physical, 6'4" frame, but he can run in the 4.3s, or the 5'10", 5'11" guy who's a little bit more shifty or could maybe be a PPR monster?
And between Pickens or Dotson, I was just watching some Dotson highlights,
right?
Before the stream, before Nick came on to the Zoom call. I like Pickens more. I do.
Wow. Okay.
I like Pickens
thought you
more.
were a
I have
Dotson
liked
guy
Pickens more throughout this whole process. No, it was between Pickens and David Bell.
Yes.
And then it was Jahan Dotson for me.
And David
Bell fell. But I'm still on Pickens more than Dotson.
Okay. I mean, he's the AJ Green type, yeah.
Right. There was some rumblings that Pickens, if it weren't for the injury, would be picked around where AJ Green was picked, which is top 10 wide receiver. Top 10 draft pick.
4th, 5th overall? He was top.
Something like that.
AJ Green went very high.
Now, that might be hyperbole from somebody, and that might be misreporting, and that might be hype building. But
Green went 4th.
George Pickens has upside that Jahan Dotson just doesn't. Jahan Dotson can be, I believe, a very good number 2 receiver. And he could end up being a wide receiver 2, a perennial wide receiver 2 for your team. He could be Robert Woods for your team. But he's never going to be Cooper Kupp for your team. Not that many people are. But he's never going to be that number 1 wide receiver in the offense, demanding the majority of the touches in the best and most highly productive areas of the field. That's Pickens. So I'd rather have Pickens over Dotson. At this point in time, in a vacuum, I believe I'd rather have Christian Watson over Sky Moore.
There you go.
What about you? I know that we differ sometimes on the wide receivers that we tend to like. I'm gravitating more towards the guys that you fall in love with, the Keenan Allen
Ohio State
types,
boys.
the
Yeah.
Deontay Johnson types.
Deontay, Jalen Waddle types.
Those type of guys, the Brandon Cook types, who were the first guy on him, T.Y. Hilton types. I'm gravitating more towards those types.
That's Sky Moore. That's Dotson,
Right. I can't.
If you like a guy, you like a guy. No, I like Pickens as well. Pickens, I agree that Pickens has been highly touted as a guy who would be going higher. His stock would be higher right now had it not been for the injury. I'm very curious to see where he lands. My general line of thinking is I like those PPR monsters, and Sky Moore and Dotson, that's their ceiling, that's their projected upside. Landing spot will play a big role. I know Christian Watson crushed the combine. Sky Moore is currently popping as far as some of the big names I follow on Twitter, their models really prefer Sky Moore and his upside.
My issue with it is just yes, I see your point.
I like Pickens though. I think I prefer Pickens slightly to Dotson, but I also really like Dotson.
I see your point with going after a certain type of wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
When they are the Jamar Chase level talents, when they are the Jalen Waddle level talents, when they are the Garrett Wilson level talents, I see your point. But with some of these lesser talents, respectively, with that type of body type, with that type of how they get on the field,
mm-hmm.
with the attributes that they bring to the table, Jahan Dotson has been comped to Emmanuel Sanders. Now, Emmanuel Sanders is a good wide receiver.
Yep.
Lasted in the NFL for a very long time. Last year, he was productive at points at age 34.
Here and there, yeah.
Very productive for a very long time, but not always somebody that made a difference for you year to year, week to week.
Yeah.
I would rather have a shot at Pickens than
alpha.
somebody with the with the attributes that I normally look for in my number 1, because he profiles more like a number 2, which means he's going to end up being more like Emmanuel Sanders than Deontay Johnson. So that's where I'm hesitant going towards that level towards that type of player at this point in where I would be drafting. Yes, I could go get the Emmanuel Sanders type, or George Pickens could turn into Cortland Sutton. Christian Watson could turn into, technically,
you mentioned an Andre Johnson
type.
He
could turn into Des Bryant. Sky Moore. Yeah. I don't know. Yes,
the upside isn't as high, or the ceiling.
At his absolute ceiling, Sky Moore with his profile, 4.4 speed, 5'10". If he's one of the best receivers of all time, he's Odell Beckham with that.
Yeah.
Profile. But are we?
Can't possibly put that on him.
We're not expecting him to be the best receiver of all time. So
right.
That's why I go that way with that tier of wide receiver. But for the most part, I agree with you on going with that new architect type of wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
But thank you again, Mike Diggs. We deep dived into that.
Yeah, Mike,
question.
Appreciate it. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah.
John's a combine guru, so he'll talk all day about all the analysis you want there. So
that's what these live streams are for. But we are about almost 3 hours in, so I do kind of want to move this on.
Yeah,
but there has been a lot of stuff that happened.
There's a lot to talk about. Hey, man, it's like the football takes about a month break, and then we're back, and it's like there's lots to talk about.
Players we haven't even talked about. We haven't touched on
to that point,
Cooper. We haven't touched on Jarvis Landry. We haven't touched on any of these, half of these guys.
To that point, we mentioned it at the beginning of the stream, but we haven't mentioned it since when we've had a little bit more people in here. We normally live stream on Thursdays, but because of free agency starting tomorrow and also the NCAA tournament for you March Madness folks on Thursday, we're going to bump our normal Thursday stream to tomorrow. So we will be back tomorrow. If there's anything else you want to talk about, we will be right back here 24 hours from now, less than that, 6 p.m. Eastern, Wednesday, not Thursday. We'll talk start of free agency. So if anything happens between now and then, plus any talking points that we didn't get to today, we will be back tomorrow. That frees up Thursday afternoon. Y'all can watch your games, and we'll all watch our brackets bust. But it'll be fun. And also Thursday is St. Paddy's Day for you Irish folks out there. And not that you need to be Irish to celebrate St. Paddy's, but you get the general gist. So again, one more time, we will be live tomorrow, Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern, not Thursday. So y'all can enjoy the tournament, but also coincides with the actual start of NFL free agency.
There you go. Hope to see y'all tomorrow. And we'll get into some of those other names that we mentioned that we haven't gotten to yet tomorrow.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So anything we didn't get to today, we can talk through tomorrow for sure.
But Hunter, we hope that we answered best rookie wide receiver. You kind of got our analysis on a lot of the guys that we didn't touch on when we jumped to Mike Dick's questions. So I think we're good there. Slim 74s. Yeah. Penny's yards per carry in that stretch was crazy high. No RB.
Probably not sustainable, but still, I'll take him in the 8th round. As far as are you the only one that believes in Pickett? Pickett is of the, this is, again, absolute ceiling, but Pickett's of that Joe Burrow mold where he had one phenomenal season. I don't know that we can't necessarily, we can't automatically assume that. I'm in wait and see mode on a guy like Pickett. Landing spot will be key for a guy like him.
His closest comp to me, at least as far as I can see it, is Ryan Tannehill, and he doesn't have the athleticism that Ryan Tannehill has.
Yeah, he's not like a converted receiver, right?
Right.
Tannehill was a converted receiver, so yeah, a little bit more athleticism. So kind of like less upside than Tannehill, but could be serviceable.
Can he get to Derek Carr? Sure.
Yeah, maybe. Carr's a borderline QB1. We'll see if Pickett can get there. He's probably a few years away at best.
Is Pickett Mac Jones level? I think he could get there.
Yeah, he could get there. But yeah, as far as Hurts, Hurts still has a long way to go, if ever, as far as being able to see and read the whole field. Not sure we necessarily get there with him, but I'm pulling for him. I like Hurts. He's got a good attitude. We'll see.
And
Rojo
Fish, what's going
Sorry.
on, man? No,
what's up, Rojo?
I was just gonna.
Gotcha. Moving on. Yeah, I was there as well. Yeah,
that could happen. I could see it.
It could, and that makes the landing spot probably less appealing for Deshaun Watson himself, who he might be thinking to himself, well, if I can't play with McCaffrey, then I don't want to go to Carolina. Not that I know definitively. I'm just, he's one of there's only 2 weapons that I can point to in Carolina right now that would make me want to play there. That's McCaffrey and DJ Moore. If McCaffrey's a part of the package, if I'm Deshaun Watson, I got to imagine I'm like, yeah, I don't want to do that. But you're right. That's probably a piece that it would take to get Deshaun Watson, because the Panthers they have 6, right? They have the 6th pick, but they don't have multiple firsts this year. So Houston's going to want future picks and then probably something right now. And yeah, that's in the form of McCaffrey. And the cap hit on those contracts makes it a little bit more plausible of a trade. But then if I'm Deshaun Watson, I'm like, well, then I'm not waiving my no trade clause to go there. But that's just me. So yeah. Okay, now I think we're caught up.
Yeah, and Mike Diggs, thanks for the kind.
Yeah,
words.
Mike, appreciate it again. Hopefully that helped. We're all real excited about these wide receivers. I think that's going to be fun.
Yeah, but we missed Slim74 saying Metcalf may be a steal too. I don't know if he's a steal. He might be a value right now based on if you're in Dynasty, where what you'd have to pay compared to what you had to pay 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago.
I must have missed that. Sorry. I must have.
The majority of places, or the majority of people who have him probably aren't selling low on a 24-year-old wide receiver 1 with his profile. So
you're still gonna have to unload the Brinks truck in an attempt to get him.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. And as far as Watson to the Saints, I mean, Hunter, that would appear to have some legs. Again, Saints are going to have to shell out all their draft capital. And again, the cap's not real, right? But they're still kind of up against it. I think they're close to getting under the cap. They've done a ton of restructuring, so they're close to getting under the cap. That Watson cap hit could make things tricky for a team like the Saints. Even after all of their contract restructuring. But we'll see. The landing spot makes sense from a perspective of it's a good defense, it's a good offensive line, a healthy Michael Thomas. Alvin Kamara's fate is very much up in the air, but there are enough pieces there from a perspective of they could contend. Especially with assuming if this is finally Brady's last year, that division is up for grabs. And obviously Watson will, we assume Watson will ultimately outlast Brady.
And as soon as Watson's eligible to play, we're going to, if he does go to New Orleans, we're going to see Sean Payton's head pop out again and be like, yo.
Yeah, you're like, what was I thinking?
What's up? I'm back.
Yeah, I'm back. Oh, I miss you guys so much.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I think that brings us to the end for today, though, guys. This was awesome.
I got a few more sleepers
for
you, but it's gonna have to wait until tomorrow, y'all.
Let's do that tomorrow. Again, if anybody's available, we are gonna go live tomorrow, not Thursday. Coincide with free agency if anything else happens, and of course, we free things up for March Madness, so you can watch the tournament.
Yes, sir. But hey, thank you to everybody in the chat who's been listening to us. We appreciate it. Come chill with us tomorrow. Thank you for the supers today, but from Mike Diggs and from
Slim.
From Slim, much appreciated. Thanks to everybody just for being here. It makes it fun to talk for 2 hours and 50 minutes about everything fantasy related that's been going on for the past 2 weeks. So couldn't do it without you guys.
What we do.
We'll see you guys tomorrow.
See y'all tomorrow. Have a good night, everybody.